meeting to order. Today our invocation will be given by Father Daryl D'Souza with Holy Family Catholic Church. Father. Rachel Firestone. She is a 12th grader from Por Vida Academy High School. She is a valedictorian, president of the National Honor Society, and will be pursuing a degree in law.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in honoring the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Today, and the first is going to be an update on our North Padre Island Beach Nourishment program that began a few days ago. And then our second item will be an update on our trust fund / impact fees work that the City Council will be addressing in these coming months. You may recall last week the City Council appointed some new members to the CIAC. We call it the Citizen Infrastructure Advisory Committee. That's a state mandated group to work with the city on the trust fund / impact fees. And Moses Masagachi, the chair of that committee, is here today. I want to thank him for being here for that presentation. But first, let's begin with the beaches. We know that soon spring break will be here, and we'll have a lot of visitors on our beaches, and this re-nourishment program is perfect time for that, to make sure our beaches continue to look and stay healthy. And beach nourishment and maintenance are important to help restore the beaches for our community, as well as for our visitors, to help mitigate erosion. This project that Heather's going to talk to us about was approved by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Texas General Land Office. So we had to show them engineering plans, and they approved them before we could do anything with the sand that was there. The project involves redistributing excess sand that we have on the beach today to the southern ends of the Packery Channel to restore erosion-prone areas in front of the seawall primarily. And we know that that section of the beach kind of narrows a little bit, and it was improved last year. And then this is a second step to improve it even more, to provide width so that we can still drive on it and there's not a conflict with pedestrians that may be using the beach to enjoy the waters and the sun. So adding sand along the seawall will safeguard valuable areas along the waterfront, improving both the pedestrian and vehicular safety, as I mentioned. This project prepares our beach for the increase in our beach visitors season that's coming up with spring break, the start, and then of course the summer season as well. And so with us here this morning is our Assistant City Manager, Heather Holbert, and she's going to provide a recap of the project to show you some of the pictures and some of the maps, and also talk a little bit about the Barefoot Mardi Gras that will be benefiting from this as well. So I'll turn it over to Heather.
Great. Again, Heather Holbert, one of the Assistant City Managers. So we'll wait for the presentation to come up. Okay, Peter stole a little bit of my thunder, but this project is, so if you remember back in 2024, we did a large beach nourishment project. And so that was from the dredging of the Packery Channel. That sand was taken from Packery Channel and then piped onto the beach, and it nourished the beach all the way, primarily in front of the seawall, all the way down onto White Cap. And so for years, several years, the width of the beach was less than 150 yards or 150 feet there in front of the JLS seawall. And so by ordinance, we do not allow vehicular traffic on a beach if it is less than 150 feet wide. And so what the nourishment did is that it went ahead and reinstated that beach out, and so allowed for to be able to have that vehicular traffic back there going all the way from Packery Channel all the way down down to White Cap, all the way down into the area that is maintained by the county. But last year, we had some very high tides and a lot of tidal erosion happened. And so we were starting to see the beach starting to thin on that width, especially there starting at Island House and kind of right there in front of the seawall. So we've had this large amount of sand. We're very fortunate in the fact that while the sand goes off of one side of the beach, it has a tendency to be deposited on the other side of Packery Channel. And so we had a large mound of sand that we got a lot of questions on. Why is that mound there? Why hasn't it been moved? And part of it is it took almost 4 years for us to be able to get the permit to move that sand. So while we have the permit where we can take sand and move it out into the water, we're not able to take the sand and move it from one part of the beach to the other. So this permit does allow us to do that. That permit is good for 5 years. And so now that we have our permit in place, we had the nourishment need, we went ahead and started moving that sand. And so the project did begin on February the 4th. It was a 10-day project, and utilizing loaders, motor graders, along with 18-wheeler belly dump trucks, we moved that sand from the north side of Packery Channel onto the south side and nourished about a half a mile worth of beach there. So like I said, it was spread over about a half mile. We had a total of 900 truckloads over that 10-day period, or a total of a little over 21,000 tons of sand was moved from the north side to the south side. Now, the great thing is that this was very timely in the fact that we do have the Barefoot Mardi Gras Parade coming up this upcoming March the 1st. And so this parade is sponsored by the Padre Island Business Association, and they expect over 10,000 locals and visitors to be able to attend this beach. It's very unique in the fact that it is the parade that is held on the beach. And the thing about the nourishment is that this is able to expand the parade route. So prior to the beach nourishment, like I said, the area in front of starting there at Island House and there in front of the seawall was cut off to vehicular traffic because we did not have the 150 feet. And so the prior route was primarily coming down Whitecap there and then going south onto the beach. Now with the nourishment of the beach, the parade will start to the south and go to the north and be able to take up a much longer route there along that whole stretch of the beach. And so that will enable better parking, better access, and more people to be able to attend, and not quite as compact as it had been previously. And so while the original nourishment back last year did help this nourishment that we just did ensures that area there, especially in front of the seawall, maintains that 150 feet, and we will be able to continue doing this. And we do a beach survey twice a year to measure the beach, and we work through the Conrad Blucher Institute to be able to do those surveys, and so they keep an eye on it, along with our crews that are on the beach on a daily basis doing maintenance, and they really are very familiar with what that width is and keep an eye on it. So that concludes my presentation. I do have Dan Harrington with the Padre Island Business Association here if anybody had any specific questions on the Barefoot Mardi Gras Parade.
No questions, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Heather, and for the council, so all the work we saw, the heavy equipment, that's all city crews doing that work?
Actually, the moving is the dump trucks were not. We did contract with a trucking company to be able to provide those dump trucks, and so they did move that sand for us. But for all the movement of the sand once it was dumped, it was done by our beach maintenance crew. And we have secured a dump truck that we are able to, going forward, if we're moving smaller amounts of sand, we'll be able to do that all in-house to truck that sand from the north side to the south side as it does accumulate. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our second item is going to be presented by Michael Dice, our Development Services Director. And just to remind the council and the community, when we build new subdivisions, new infrastructure is needed. Things like water lines, wastewater lines, stormwater lines, roads. And so a way to help pay for those comes from the developer. The city has used a kind of a unique funding structure known as trust funds. But we know that many Texas cities use what we call an impact fee, and the fee is assessed to help pay for that infrastructure so that existing subdivisions through property tax and other means don't have to pay for the infrastructure. So last year, the City Council did a lot of work to review this new model known as the impact fees. We didn't get quite to the finish line, and so this council will pick up from where we left off. And that work began last week by assessing the committee members on that Capital Improvement Advisory Committee known as CAC. And again, I want to recognize Moses Masagachi, who is the chair, and did a great job last year with this advisory member group of 15 individuals vetting through the impact fees. They were last asked to do a comparison of the trust fund model compared to the impact fee model, and that's something they began their work on, and they'll continue here soon. So we thought it'd be good just to give this council an update since it's timely with last week's appointments to the SEAC. And so with that, Michael Dice from Development Services, the Department of Development Services is the lead department in managing the assessment of the impact fee or trust fund model. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Waiting for the presentation. This will be a brief presentation again to kind of cover the background of trust funds, impact fee discussion that we've had, get some of the newer council members acclimated to the discussion. I won't necessarily get into the weeds today. This is just a quick brief. Well, I'll go ahead and read while we wait for that. So in August of 2019, City Council directed city staff to examine the existing trust fund program and any potential alternatives. DSD reached out and hired a consultant, Duncan Associates, who recommended a move to impact fees. That was a similar study that was done for the city back in 2006. After that, we put out an RFP for a consultant, and then we did contract with Pape Dawson Engineers to produce a comprehensive master plan, land use plan, capital improvement plan, and study those potential impact fees. So my graphic would have shown, there, not that one, we're getting there. So after 6 years, 28 capital improvement advisory committees, it should be coming up here quickly. Hey, all right, there we go. After 6 years, 28 capital improvement advisory committee meetings, 19 presentations or updates to City Council, a ton of public engagement. We've had district town hall meetings on more than one occasion, so we've hit every district. We've got thousands of staff, consultant, and especially those volunteer hours for the SEAC members that have been through the whole process. Again, Development Services continues to work with SEAC, the full and subcommittee meetings, discussing the trust funds, funding alternatives, and the funding process. So just real brief, what is a trust fund? So developed by the development community and city staff in 1982, this was to reimburse for the cost of oversizing and extending water and wastewater infrastructure to new developments. The city at that time was not doing that on their own, and this was a way to get development moving. This gave the responsibility of extending nearly all the new water and wastewater infrastructure to the development community through those platting fees, one-time fee during platting. So when the UDC was written in 2011, it was moved to Section 8.5 and included the 4 funds. There's a water arterial transmission grid main fund, a distribution main fund, a wastewater trunk system fund, and a wastewater collection fund. Now, most important on those funds, as we bring those to council for approval, those funds can be moved between those funds as needed. So generally, what is an impact fee? An impact fee differs from a trust fund fee. It is developed through the state, Chapter 395 of the state local government code. Legislatively, it was created in 1989, and Chapter 395 defines an impact fee as a charge or assessment imposed by a political subdivision against new development in order to generate revenue for funding or recouping the costs of capital improvements or facility expansions necessitated and attributed by the new development. Excuse me. Again, this is a one-time fee levied on the new or expanded development that helps in the capital cost for the city. So with Chapter 395, it's required that a committee be created to oversee and examine the plans that are developed and brought through. So we had a capital improvement plan, a master plan, land use assumption plans. Part of that committee by law is at least 40% of the committee has to be development related, real estate, engineer, building industries. Our current committee runs about 66% development related. Again, City Council authorized the SEAC to analyze the viability of extending the trust funds for the purpose of future development back in September of '24. Here's a list of our current SEAC members. We have 15 members, again, appointed through different council members and the city manager. We had a subcommittee meeting, as Peter mentioned, on Thursday of last week. And we're discussing those topics. You know, we're examining the trust fund, the fees and the policies. Policies has been a big topic. What is a standardized process for development agreements as we move forward? Adoption of a drainage design manual that came out of the master plan for stormwater. Timing and payment of impact fees or trust funds, how that would occur. Redevelopment requirements, application of credits. What are those potential funding alternatives? Could there be a hybrid between a trust fund and an impact fee? Potential fee waivers to incentivize development in certain areas, procedures for reporting and tracking, procedures for implementation. What's the policy and process going to be for assessing impact fees to potential large volume users outside the city limits? And again, process for the impact fee collection in newly annexed areas. We've learned of what's called the Lubbock loophole. Lubbock passed impact fee ordinance 2 years ago, and they didn't address anything that was newly being annexed. So it was a kind of a loophole to get in and out of impact fees. So we're looking at all the options if that were, impact fees were to go that way. So again, we're continued subcommittee meetings, talking about those options and policies. We're going to do an orientation for those new SEAC members that were appointed coming up in March. We're going to present subcommittee recommendations back to the full SEAC for final approval. We'll present those final recommendations to Planning Commission. It is not required, but again, we're trying to touch all the bases to make sure every stakeholder is engaged, and we do have those public meetings. And then finally, we'll present the SEAC recommendations to City Council for consideration. So again, not really getting in the weeds. This is more of just a touch of where we're at. We got the band back together, and SEAC is rocking and rolling with looking at trust funds. And I'm here for any questions. The chair is here for any questions.
Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Michael. I think it would have been helpful for us to have received your presentation. I was looking for that. It never appeared. Even now, you know, when you were trying to present it, it was not, you know, visible.
Understood.
So it is a complex issue, and I think that would have helped, especially for the new members in council. Is there a reason why we weren't given that?
I was editing up until about 10 minutes before council, but we do plan on going to council members to brief and bring up to speed the new council members that may have questions. Again, as we get further into SEAC subcommittee meetings and what they discuss, those discussions will also come forward.
I also wanted to mention that my own appointee is here, Eli McKay. She's been, you know, just very consistent in trying to educate the public and what have you. But what is it that, or can you tell us what prevented it? Why is it here in our lap now? Why didn't it get approved with the previous council? Because I thought we had everything lined up.
Well, to answer, I mean, we really need to look at the program in totality. So if we have a presentation for impact fees, how does that affect what's the current system? Can the current system be modified? That's where the direction came in September, was to really take it back, look at trust funds and see if that could be accomplished in a way that meets the development needs, meets the requirements for the city. How does that interact potentially with, like I mentioned, a hybrid for impact fees? So that's really what we're discussing at this point. We want to make sure that when we present it to council, you know, we're several years in, 3 directors in. We want to make sure that when we present it, it's a good presentation. Everything's there on the table, like you said, to consider.
Well, the thing is that, I mean, now this is, you know, my second term, and I do remember that what at the end, I think there was a question as to how we were going to pay for some of the older projects, right? Is that correct? I mean, that was the crux as to why we couldn't move forward. Is that, would
Well,
that be accurate, or?
There were a lot of open-ended questions that I think needed to be addressed. And we want to present the best analysis of current and potential funding alternatives, and basically taking a step back and reassessing what we currently have and what we've gained out of the studies and the work that our consultant did. What can we set forth to actually be the best for Corpus? So that's where we're at this point.
And can you just answer one last question? How much have we paid so far on this study? Consultant fees, what have you?
Approximately $3 million.
3 million, and we're still waiting. So, all right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sometimes we have to wait. We want to make sure, again, we're not rushing anything to you. We want to make sure we've got the best,
No,
best available
I
program.
understand, but we've been working on this since, what, 2006?
Well, that was the first go-around.
Yeah, can I add to that? So Mike, everything you said is accurate, but just to say it a little clearer, the city council voted to have the staff with the SEAC provide a different alternative for the council. That was the council decided that. The staff didn't, or the consultant. That was to compare the trust funds to the impact fees. So that's what they're working on. That's the direction we were given. So we'll be coming back soon to show the comparison of how does the trust funds work and how does the impact fees work, and what's the difference. That's what the council asked for.
Right, and hopefully that we can proceed and not accept, but, we have invested so much money in the
Right.
consultant, and we need to make a decision and
Right.
move forward. So hopefully this council
We
will.
agree. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Hernandez. Oh,
Okay, real quickly here, a few things here that you mentioned. It wasn't just to compare trust funds to impact fees. It was to see what improvements could be made to trust funds to where it could be viable. So I want to make sure that words matter. We're
Okay,
not
good
just
point.
comparing them.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, good
also
point.
looking at improvements.
Right.
Also, that $3 million was not just for the impact fee study. It was also to update our master plans. So we didn't waste money
Right.
just on studying the impact fee. It was to update much needed master plans that
First comprehensive master plan.
comprehensive, to
Correct.
put it online, to make it easier for developers. So that was money well invested in that. Also, you mentioned the drainage design manual. Is that something similar to the infrastructure design manual, or is it going to be incorporated with it? Okay, so I'll state the question again. The drainage design manual, is that a component of the infrastructure design manual, or is it going to be separate?
That's up for discussion. Again, there's a draft that is being developed for stormwater management as part of the stormwater management plan. Whether or not that drops into the UDC as an appendix, or the IDM, or
Well, actually, I
some other
think
way?
I think we should combine them all into the UDC to where you have a one-stop shop, and it's something that the Planning Commission can review for all those documents. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done here, and I would say if SEAC can recommend that the infrastructure design manual gets put into the UDC, I think that'd be a good idea.
well, as you'll notice on my slide, I did include that. So that is part of the discussion. And again, to reiterate, the money that has been spent so far, it's not been taxpayer money. This is directly out of the special revenue fund from development services, which is basically developer fees. So just want to assure
Okay.
that as well.
Thank you very much.
okay, thank you, Michael.
No problem.
That concludes the city manager's report, Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you. So as we proceed to item F, public comment, I'd like to take a moment to emphasize the importance of this business meeting. As we always do, we handle significant matters concerning taxpayer dollars, making it imperative that we uphold the highest standards of decorum and adherence to our policies. Our core principles of openness, transparency, and inclusiveness guide our actions, and we aim to achieve them while respecting our city council policy, which has been in place for over 30 years. Public comment serves as one avenue for communication, but certainly not the sole method. You can also reach out to members of this council by way of phone call, emails, or even scheduling an in-person appointment. With that said, let's proceed with public comment, keeping in mind the importance of decorum and adherence to this policy. Before we begin, I would like to ask City Attorney Miles Risley to review the City Council, the meeting rules of decorum. And these rules will appear on the television screens above for our audience's reference. Mr. Risley.
All citizens must be courteous, polite, and respectful of one another, including the city council and city staff. The mayor and council members shall be referred to by title and/or title surname. All remarks must be addressed to the mayor and city council and not to the council members as individuals. Citizens are only permitted to speak on city-related subject matter. Speaking on any non-city related matter is prohibited. Loud, boisterous, profane, or obscene language or behavior is not allowed. Citizens must refrain from any disturbing noise, demonstration, or other act disrupting to the city council business.
Thank you, Mr. Risley. So individuals will be called upon in the order they signed up electronically. We will first hear in-person comments, followed by virtual public comments. Residents of Corpus Christi will be given priority over non-residents. Please state your name and the city in which you live before beginning your comments. You have two opportunities to make public comment on an agenda item or city-related business. First, at its present time, and second, when the item is actually heard. So please select an option. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes, while non-resident comments are limited to 1 minute. A visible timer positioned near the city secretary's desk will assist in managing the allotted time. If you have a petition or relevant information, please present it to the city secretary before speaking. So we will begin with Mr. John Weber.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. John Weber of Corpus Christi. I would like to offer some suggestions for running the City Council meetings more efficiently. According to the City Charter, Part 1, Article 2, the City Council shall meet in regular session at least once a week, unless the City Council elects to adjust the regular meeting schedule for valid reasons recorded in the minutes. I don't think this has been happening. In Part 2, it says, each Tuesday except it shall not meet the first Tuesday unless requested by the mayor. These two parts of the charter seem in conflict with each other. In March, there are only 2 meetings scheduled. Why don't we have 3 meetings? By having less meetings, each council meeting will be longer and less productive. Meeting agendas should be organized in a way that the business can get done in a reasonable amount of time. It shouldn't have too many items on it. It should limit the number of controversial items on each agenda. The more controversial and the more technical items should be the earliest on the agenda, so the council will be the sharpest. It should limit the number of public hearings. Like the port, individual consider items should come before consent agenda items. Like the port, the city manager's comments should be last. In Part 2, Section 16, letter P, we know Robert's Rules of Order shall govern the council proceedings. The mayor needs to ask council and citizens if they want to pull any item on the consent agenda. The mayor also needs to make sure to ask for public comment on every item before asking for motions or voting. If the mayor forgets, someone else needs to point this out immediately. I think we could all learn from some training on how to run better council meetings. None of you signed up for meetings that run late into the evening. You all have other responsibilities to tend to. Let's have someone come in and give us all a workshop. Once we are all informed how to conduct meetings more efficiently and effectively, everyone will benefit. Thank you for your consideration and have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Next, we have Rachel Caballero.
Before I start, can you make sure the mic is turned on for the audience, because they turned it off for Mr. Weber. It started off okay, and then we can't hear what he was saying back there. Typical antics. Ready? Rachel Caballero, District 1. Good afternoon, elected community public servants and taxpayer-funded employees and community members here to defend our First Amendment rights to be heard. The minor changes that are being considered to the drought contingency plan still do not address, restrict, or force true conservation from the high-volume majority water users. Until we put real restrictions on the high-volume users, we will not put a dent in the mass amount of conservation that is needed. Now to the true tyrannical issue at hand. Agenda item number 25-0259, the proposed limitation of public comment, our only chance to enact our First Amendment constitutional rights to air our grievances. Because of last week's meeting, we now know that some of you are ignorant to our rights that are protected by the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment. We are here to remind you. Why are the community's rights always the first on the chopping block when it comes to this governing body? When there is a large volume of people speaking up, it is because we are unhappy with your performance. You all are failing to do your jobs in representing our community. That's why we come here, because you all are not listening to us, and now you want to limit our ability to tell you that. The city manager's agendas are sometimes 10 pages long. Why not limit him to a certain amount of agenda items per meeting? Council members are given 20 minutes to speak on each agenda item of which the meeting parliamentarian, the mayor, should track and does not. Why not limit that to 5 minutes per council member per item? I know more than I would like to know about some of you because of how many unnecessary personal anecdotes are being shared throughout the meeting. And then there's the vast amount of time being wasted thanking and patting each other on the backs. If you are a newly elected person and you are complaining about being tired by the end of the meeting, guess what? You signed up and ran for this job. When those of us in the private sector have to put in overtime to get things done, we just do it. We expect and demand that you do the job that you are elected for and not take our rights away because you're tired. Take some vitamins or drink an energy drink like the rest of us do. If you're not up for whatever it takes to fix this tyranny, consider this your final term. You know, you all show up to veterans celebrations and thank them for their service. And then you turn around and laugh at their sacrifice by considering and putting items like this on the agenda. It is shameful. Whichever city staffer or elected official that proposed this item or is in support of it will be considered an enemy of the community and will be dealt with accordingly come election time. We will not forget. Godspeed and have the day you deserve.
Bob Catalano. Bob? Is Bob with us? Okay, he's not here. The resplendent Elena Martinez. Beautiful title.
Elena Martinez, Corpus Christi District 4. I want to start by addressing a comment that Mayor Guajardo made last week as I was walking away from the podium. She obviously saw that coming. She indicated that she only calls people by the name that they signed in with, even though there is no place to select the option of Mr., Mrs., or Doctor when signing up, which is why I added it to my name. But I noticed that she called Mr. Cedric Davis Mr. City Manager as he walked away. I wonder where on the sign-up he indicated that was his preferred title. What I'm really here to talk about, though, is the abhorrent attempt by our city council to further stifle the voices of the citizens of Corpus Christi. Not only has the council continued to weaponize the rules of decorum to silence citizens, but now there is an agenda item further limiting the time that citizens have to speak. Last week, I attended the meeting and made public comment. With 12 seconds left, Rachel Caballero was interrupted by Mayor Guajardo to inquire whether speaking about Peter Zanoni by name was a violation of the rules of decorum. This halted any momentum she had built up. Either the mayor does not know the difference between a direct address and a reference, or she wanted an excuse to end an adversarial comment. Whether you agree with Ms. Caballero or not, she has just as much right to speak as anyone else, and she is entitled to her full 3 minutes. I also went back and looked at the recording and noticed there were other offenses. Before Ms. Caballero was given her turn to speak, there were three other individuals that either made the same type of reference or actually broke the rules of decorum by addressing individuals. Ms. Blanca Parkinson referred to council members twice with no direct address. Ms. Flo East addressed Councilman Mark Scott and Peter Zanoni by first name and directly thanked them and asked a question. And Ms. Susie Saldana referenced council members by name 7 times and directly addressed individuals 3 times. None of these individuals were stopped in the middle of their comments to address the rules of decorum, and nobody mentioned these issues when they were done speaking. And now the city council is telling us that they only want to hear citizens as long as it's convenient. A maximum of 75 minutes for public comment. That's how much the voices of the people matter to the council. Councilwoman Campos asked for written public comments to be read aloud in future meetings so that the public can be fully informed. Is that on the agenda today? No. But a 75-minute time limit that has never been publicly discussed was. Last week, 44 people spoke during public comment. With the proposed time limit, that would be 1 minute and 45 seconds each approximately. People are so passionate about the issues. They come down here in the middle of the workday. They skip their lunch break. They use PTO or lose hours worth of pay. And this is how you respond, limiting their time to be more convenient. The people on the dais in front of me volunteered to be here, chose to be in public service, and represent the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Ron Graben? Mr. Ron Graben? Marilena Garza.
Marilena Garza, District 1. I'm here to speak to all of y'all about the cold weather that's coming up. And I also want to publicly state that I never got my meeting. I haven't gotten any meetings with anyone. I was told that we were going to plan, we were going to do better. And doing better is communicating with service providers. From day to day, our capacity changes. All of a sudden a bus shows up with people that we have to help, and we said that we could help, 50 people, and all of a sudden now I can only help 10. So you're not communicating with us. Nobody from the city is coming to even at least the HIP meetings. That's the only thing that you have viable right now to communicate with us service providers is attending the HIP meetings, because you don't have a department, you don't have any funding, you don't have any staff, and you definitely don't have any plans on how to improve and do better. I have gotten no respondents directly from anybody about, hey, we're going to need you to come out. People need shoes just as bad as they need a roof over their head and clothing. They need access to sanitation. We're going to be at the natatorium yet again, which I'm grateful that we are moving in the right direction. We're having an overnight shelter, which is something that we have never done. We're learning. I'm not going to fault people who are just learning and trying to do better, but this has been a problem that's been going on since the 80s. I was actually reading some of the Caller Times archived news articles. There's one in 2017 that we're talking about this low barrier shelter, and we're excited about these options. Nothing. There's even one in 2021 where people are saying we're excited to look at these new options. It's just talk. I went to the Bloomberg meetings that you had, Ms. Guajardo. There was wonderful ideas being exchanged in that room, and they all died in that room. Nothing is coming of it. We need to do better. Weather is not going to wait for you guys to get it together. We're going to have hurricanes. We're going to have heat. We have a already strained library budget that you guys keep using and piggybacking off of them, using them as warming and cooling centers. It's just wrong. You're setting us up for failure. It's not the people, it's not the community, it's not the service providers. We need leadership. I need you guys to step up and lead us. We're here to support you. We're not the leg to stand on. We're the crutch to help the broken leg. We're not the leg to stand on. The service providers are not the leg. You guys are. And we want to crutch and help you. I want you guys to succeed. So I have given every one of y'all my card. If you're down to fight for our community and to create a better emergency response plan and actually tackle this houselessness problem, this poverty problem, give me a call. Okay, I know you have a lot on this agenda. There's a lot always coming. There's people screaming. I'm usually one of them, but please reach out to me, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Garza. Can you play? Oh, you do have, sorry, I didn't see it. Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. Are we going to arrange a meeting with Ms. Garza on the comments that she just made, that we did state that we were going to meet with her and then we didn't? So could we follow up on that, Peter?
Yeah, we can, Councilwoman. I'm not sure who stated that, but we can. We have one assistant director that helps in the homelessness area, and that would be Jennifer Buxton, who was here, so I'm sure she's listening.
Peter, I think it was Jace.
Yes.
That
It
we had
was Jace?
conversations
Okay,
with.
did Jace?
And I also spoke with Marilena and
Okay.
said that we would be meeting with her just about becoming a provider and partner. So,
Yeah, so the
yeah.
answer is yes, and we'll have Jace and Jennifer Buxton meet with her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. Can I get one of your cards, Ms. Garza? Yeah.
Blanca Parkinson.
Good afternoon, Blanca Parkinson, Corpus Christi. Last year, the Texas Water Development Board published their biennial report on the future of seawater and brackish groundwater desalination in Texas. Under the section titled Research, Regulatory, Technical, and Financial Impediments to Implementation, this report presents a very different picture, very different scenario regarding the city's proposed desal plants than the narrative which the city has been selling residents. The report makes it clear that the large-scale seawater desalination efforts in this area are experiments to seek and provide water to future industries. The report even refers to the city's desalination efforts as a learning opportunity. The city is really just being used to pass the cost of these learning opportunities and experiments on to the most financially abused ratepayers in the state of Texas. As Corpus Christi Water scrambles way out of its league to be some wannabe industrial water supplier, the cobbler's kids have no shoes. Corpus Christi Water has forgotten and neglected the resident, the ratepayer, and the small business owner. It is no surprise the mayor and city manager are attempting to silence any and all criticism of the city's desal scams, abusive water policies, and industry's enormous water usage. However, with each passing day, the water situation in our city becomes more black and white. Even if you try to stifle public comment and drown out the truth, the facts are completely exposed. These facts are, the city has allowed large volume water users to monopolize all of the water sources on which residents rely. The city has secured no new water sources for residents, which should have been done before they gave away the last of our water. The city is scrambling today to maybe provide a temporary Band-Aid. The ground wells are a maybe, and they're temporary. The city is just now scrambling to repair Mary Road's pipeline and bring it to capacity. That should have been done before you gave away our water. The city has borrowed $750 million, which will be repaid through our water bills, an amount that is maybe half of the true cost of this plant, and is now funding a pilot plant to avoid surprises and make sure that it works. Corpus Christi Water and members of this council peddle a fictitious rate model. Our water rates are completely unstable. The city has no idea what our water rates will be. Why? Because the large volume water users are fighting the city for increasing their rates just to bring them up to the cost of service. They don't even want to pay what it costs the city to provide them water. They want us to pay that. And we might just have to. Depending on what the SOA judges decide in October of this year, we might have to go back to paying their water bills. This council needs to end the drought exemption. It is the only safety net that residents and small business owners have in this community. The only safety net we have left. And you need to end it. It's not unheard of that they pay their water bills and that they share the water. We are still sharing water sources with them, and they need to share
Thank you, Ms. Parkinson.
and pay for their water. It's not unheard of, it's not unreasonable.
Isabel Ariza.
Dr. Isabel Araiza, District 2, co-founder of For the Greater Good. In 1929, Antonio Gramsci, a political leader and journalist in Italy, was imprisoned by Benito Mussolini's fascist regime. While in prison, he wrote ideas that ring true today, almost 100 years later, in Corpus Christi. Loosely translated, Gramsci wrote, "The old world is dying, the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time for monsters." The petrochemical cartel and the Port of Corpus Christi have driven city policy since the early 1920s. They've allowed industries to guzzle our water, pollute our air, sicken our families, and starve our public institutions of much-needed resources. And now, as local organizer Jake Hernandez stated, these mega corporations are holding the coastal bend residents and small local businesses and organizations hostage to their water demands. Owners of these mega corporations don't live here, but are literally sucking us dry while they donated tens of thousands of dollars to your campaigns and PACs so that when elected, you will do their bidding. And we also see the shysters who have sauntered into our region to head public and private organizations, looting our resources and public dollars until they move on to their next venture. We see them, we see you, and what you are doing. We, the people, are emboldened. We are not going away. You cannot silence us, try as you might. Mayor Joe tried to silence us during COVID times by limiting our speech to 1,000 characters or 1 minute. And the public saw through that and grew stronger. And Mayor Joe was mayor no more. When we started, people thought of diesel gas when we talked about desalination. We outlasted him. Will outlast you. We drove the election this last go around. Your decision to limit our First Amendment right to petition our government shows how weak, how insecure, and how misaligned you are with the public. As our For the Greater Good member Eric Payne said, we aren't anti-everything, we are for the greater good. For the Greater Good has been advocating for the greater good for 9 years now. We're not scared of you or the monsters about which Gramsci writes, because the old world is dying. The new world is being born, and we, the people, are making that happen. And as community organizer Chloe Torres said, our love for community is greater than your love for profits. So we're not gonna quit. And we spend a lot of time preparing our statements for those 3 minutes. There are no other public spaces for us to talk with you or to talk with our community members. So the 3 minutes is the least you can do to hear us. And maybe if you actually listened, there wouldn't have to be so many people coming to public comment to speak over and over again. Punto.
Thank you, Ms. Ariza. Ken Rosier? Is Ken Rosier with us? Okay. Amanda Guetta? Amanda Guetta. Adam Rios? Okay.
It was Bring Your Pops to City Council Day today. I don't know if anybody got that memo, but here we are. Before I speak, I just wanted to take a moment, since I have him here. Some of you hear me speak about him from time to time. This is my father, Israel Rios. He is a Vietnam veteran who, after getting outstanding recruit in his naval class, got that ticket to Vietnam, which he said that wasn't the prize he thought he was going to get, but that's what he got. And after working for the Department of Defense, he has 42 years of commitment to the defense of this great nation, and saw a lot when he got back, did a lot with civil rights, and instilled in me the will to want to do good for the community, and taught me the valuable lesson that when you climb the ladder, you don't pull it up behind you. I'm going to utilize my time to speak, as I usually do, but sort of promote an event that's coming up this Saturday. I know there might be some weather pending, but should this happen, this is a big deal for me and a lot of people in the skate community, because this is the first time that the city is actually sponsoring something for the skate community. It's usually us having to do it. We get the permits, we throw the contests, we get the prizes, hope it doesn't get busted up. And so you can imagine some of our surprise when I started passing around this thing and said, oh my God, the Parks and Rec Department is throwing a contest. And it's free. Imagine that, it's free. It's free to the public. So I just want to share this with the public. The Corpus Christi Parks and Recreation Department invites skateboarders and fans to the West Guth Skate Games on Saturday, February 22nd from 1 to 4 at West Guth Skate Park, which is located at 9720 Upriver Road. Usually I have to tell people, you know the Old People's Restaurant? It's right behind that. Well, that's the actual address of it. There's no need to pre-register. Sign up at the event. There will be prizes for the top winners in each category, including Best Trick Competition. This starts at 1:30 and it ends at 3 with the competition. The first handful of folks that show up get free snow cones from Lone Star Hawaiian Ice. And to say that this is building momentum would be an understatement. That being said, this is why I started all this. You build these parks and these things start to happen, which is why we are advocating for the park on the island. Instead of making it the third phase of Commodores, we're trying to push that to Billish Park to get it done sooner than later so that the kids on the island can start to do things like this. I see that my time is winding down. I wanted to just say on behalf of my father, who, by the way, is a decorated elder of the Inde Nation, Cayotero Clan, White Mountain Apache. My grandfather, his father, was born in Indian Hills as a Lipan Apache, the Light Gray People Clan. It's now known as Santa Rosa, but old Texas maps show it as Indian Hills. And on behalf of my father, I would just like to say Dagote and Washtea. Thank you all.
You state your name and city, please.
Yeah, sorry. Adam Rios, Corpus Christi, Pony Boy Skate Company.
Thank you, Mr. Rios. And thank you for having your dad, and thank you for his service. Amaret Garza Morales. Amaret Garza Morales. Okay, Eric Payne. Eric Payne. Jason McCarsky. Jason McCarsky. Mary Weichman. Is Mary Weichman with us? Okay. Susie Saldana.
Susie Luna Saldana, District 2. And open up your ears, but you're going to have to listen to this one. I am so ashamed of you all that it is pathetic. This council has put on the agenda something to take away the rights of the citizens of Corpus Christi. We're good enough to tax. You want to tax us? You want us to pay more for the water? You want to give it to the refineries? You want to do all of those things, but you're not willing to take 3 minutes to listen to the people. So your meeting was long last week. You did a lot of things last week. And you did it because you wanted to. This council is being run by a dictator. And I am telling you that it is wrong what you're doing. You need to actually speak up. Those of you that just got elected, I had hopes for you. I had hopes to have strong women. I had strong people that'll come up here and talk for the people, and you have forgotten who you represent. You represent the people of Corpus Christi. That's who you represent. You might have gotten in barely, but you got in. And you represent us, the people. You're not transparent. You're not doing what's good for the people. You are actually being there to be dictators, like our leader, in my opinion, that's what she is, running this meeting the way she does. Hey, her little brother over here, that's what we call, by his own words, those are the people that are ruining our city. We have no city. The people have no say-so in this council. and you are even trying to limit it less. So I'm hoping to see when this item comes up, who has the guts to speak up for the people, those that you were elected to represent, which obviously some people have forgotten. Transparency, you need. Water, we need. Dictators, we don't.
Thank you, Ms. Saldana. John Dixon. Is John Dixon with us? Andrea Puyol?
Okay, hello. My name is Andrea Puyol. I live in District 2. I am here today as a concerned resident and on behalf of folks who could not be here today. And I want to quickly inquire on behalf of Corpus Christi Mutual Aid. We have attempted to adopt a park for months and have not received any follow-up despite multiple attempts to reach y'all. And we just want to know the status of that. Now, in reference to the memo I just handed, this memo was prepared by grassroots community groups and includes demands and recommendations for a resident-first DCP. I just want to quickly go over some points. We believe the current DCP and proposed DCP show the city's failure to understand the root cause of why we're in the severe water shortage that we are in. You oversold it and overpromised. It is extremely disappointing that we had to yell and pressure to hold another, y'all, to hold another listening session. We just want the same time, attention, and opportunity that industry and businesses were given. Residents want that time and attention as well. The amount of time you have given the public a notice for input is also disappointing. It's not soon enough. Please, let people know as soon as possible. People want to come and tell y'all what they think, and it would be good for y'all to be there as well at these sessions to listen. The lack of attendance is really insulting. Now, we demand the following: a measurable, quantifiable trigger for stage 4 or water emergency. The city manager should not decide that. In a water emergency state, a mandatory curtailment of water from the top 10 largest water users. We also want transparency from the city about water monitoring plans and metrics. We demand that the top 10 heaviest water customers report their conservation plans in the city DCP and the city's water conservation plan. And we demand that the city implements a tiered pricing for high volume water users and removes the optional surcharge. Now, Section 16.9 of the DCP states that allocation preparations should have started in stage 2. The city has failed to limit industrial wholesale customer water use, and now we head into stage 4. We demand immediate enforcement of these allocations. To close, we hope that this memo sheds light on a resident-first approach. We resent that we are treated as adversaries rather than partners by a majority of city leadership. We are pro-equity, pro-justice, pro-democracy, pro-community, and not anti-everything. And with the remaining time, I just want to speak a little more personally. I was raised in Alice, Texas, and then I went to high school and have spent a lot of my adult life in Corpus Christi. I've lived here for many years now. And it's really disappointing to see this. This is my first time coming to public comment, and I hope to come here more often. And it's even more disappointing that y'all want to limit our time. I really hope that all of y'all reconsider that and do not vote to limit our time. That's just so offensive. This city is, everyone I went to school with is gone. Everyone I went to high school with is pretty much gone and doesn't live here anymore. Because everyone knows that the only thing that's here is dirty water, a bunch of industries polluting our air. Please stop, do the right thing, and please listen to residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Puyol. Brandon Garris.
Brandon Garris, District 4, Corpus Christi. Subject: exploring atmospheric water generation for the coastal bend. Greetings, honorable members of the Corpus Christi City Council. My name, again, is Brandon Garris, and I'm the founder and CEO of Aquarius Vita, a residential atmospheric water generator distributor. I'm excited to introduce atmospheric water generation as a viable solution to our region's water challenges. Atmospheric water generation harnesses moisture from the air, providing sustainable and reliable source of potable water. This innovative technology is perfect for industrial, commercial, and residential use in the coastal bend. Our region's high humidity levels make it an ideal location for atmospheric water generation. Systems can produce from 1 gallon per hour for residential use to over 1 gallon per minute for industrial use applications. With increasing threat of water restrictions, exploring solutions like atmospheric water generation is crucial. Atmospheric water generation offers numerous benefits, including mobile and off-grid capability, providing a reliable water supply for emergency response situations, reduces plastic waste by decreasing the use of plastic water bottles, and supplements water sources and enhances water security for industrial, commercial, and residential use. I'd like to partner with the city to help develop and implement atmospheric water generation technology in the coastal bend. This collaboration can create solutions for industrial and commercial use, attracting new businesses in the area. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to discussing this further and exploring ways to bring atmospheric water generation technology to our community. Best regards and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garris. Jessica Garza. Jessica Garza. Cheryl Sechrist.
Hi, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and staff. My name is Cheryl Sechrist, and I'm a mom of two boys ages 13 and 16 and a resident of Padre Island. I'm here today to bring your attention to resolutions recently submitted by PRAC and ISAC committees. Why do we need a Padre Island skate park sooner than later? To decrease accident liability and keep our active youth safe. Our youth currently ride, scooter, and skate off of boat ramps, streets, and local business infrastructure. As of May 2024, the U.S. Census shows there are over 8,000 family households in North Padre Island with children, and there are currently over 400 children enrolled in the Seashore Charter Schools. A large number of the Seashore Middle Academy students, they bike, scooter, and skate to school. After school, they like to get on their devices or on their bikes and scooters and skateboards and ride around together to kind of blow off steam after the school year or school day. Padre Island has a surf skate culture. According to the Padre Island ADP plan presentation from 2021, 32.7% of residents on the island are between the ages of newborn to 34. There's as many residents out there ages 15 to 34 as there are retired residents, ages 65 plus. There are many parks on the island with playgrounds enjoyed by youth under the age of 8, but not a lot for kids that are older than 8 to do and enjoy. I'm here to represent the Padre Island Stoked Brokers, a group of island residents who have been advocating for a skate park on the island over the past year. April 2024, we formed our group and created and sent out a change.org survey to see how many residents would support the skate park, and we had over 970 responses in favor of a skate park on the island. Over the past year, we spoke to the City Council and in PRAC and ISAC's meetings during public comment, and our voices were heard to a degree. The city included the addition of a skate park to be built eventually at Commodore's Park in Phase 3. Phase 1 is currently 30% in the design phase with no current budget or timeline for phases 2 and 3. Time is not on the side of our youth, unfortunately. ISAC and PRAC recently passed a resolution and submitted it to build a skate park on the island sooner than later. City staff responded that their immediate focus is on Commodore's Park. We believe, along with ISAC and PRAC, that both can be done in conjunction with the other to give our island youth a safe place to ride and skate more in the immediate future. Our island youth a safe place to ride and skate more in the immediate future. why relocate the park? So we're not trying to say we want another one in addition to the one that's going to be in at Commodore's eventually, but we're thinking about, why not relocate it? Billish Park is currently located for easy access and central on the island for our youth. There's a large amount of unused space that's filled with sticker burrs and can't be used, and it's expensive to maintain and irrigate. We ask that you work with us to find ways to fund this park sooner than later. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Segrist. Amanda Breland.
Hi, my name is Amanda Breland, and I live in Corpus Christi, District 1. I'm here to speak about item 17, I think, the one where y'all are trying to limit the amount of time we get to speak. This is a clear move to silence us and a step towards fascism. Let's call it what it is. Instead of addressing the issues that the citizens are bringing to your attention, y'all are trying to shut us up. I know the majority of y'all are just going through the motions when it comes to these meetings and public comments, but to us, these are crucial. Public comment is one of the few ways to hold y'all accountable and to make our voice heard. We take time out of our day to come here and speak, and our time is just as valuable as y'all's. I'm actually here on my lunch break right now, and I'm gonna be late going back, so just so y'all are aware, the sacrifices that y'all citizens are making to bring these issues to y'all's attention. And also, since the city likes to spend so much of our tax dollars on lunches, I think next time I'll just send y'all the bill for my lunch. Personally, Marty McPie's is one of my favorites, just FYI. We sacrifice our time and energy to be here. We don't deserve to have the few precious minutes we already have taken away from us. I want to remind y'all that we know where y'all live, where y'all work, where y'all go to church, where your kids go to school. If this passes, we'll take our comments directly to you if we have to. Have the day y'all deserve.
Thank you, Ms. Breland. Dora Wilburn. Dora Wilburn. Ashley Amato. Councilwoman.
Yes. I know she wanted to be here, Dora, but I also wanted just to point out that seems to be a lot of people that are not showing up, and it looks like it's for the same item, which is the 17th, the First Amendment. I just want to point that out, that there's a lot of people that I think wanted to be here but just couldn't. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
In support of their First Amendment.
Ashley Amato. Ashley Amato. Samuel Andre Fryer.
Thank you, Council. I'm Samuel Andre Fryer. I live in District 4. I'm speaking about two things. One is the motion to ensure the fair and efficient public participation by allocating each person speaking as public commenter up to 3 minutes or 75 minutes divided by the number of speakers, whichever is less. Now, limiting the public comments to an hour and 15 minutes allows for only 25 residents to actually speak, and it's probably less given the time to transition. Speaking of the First Amendment, which is a part of our Bill of Rights, it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, in light of that, this motion is more accurately, since the City Council is not Congress, let's motion to abridge the freedom of speech and the ability to petition the government for redress of grievances. Now, it sounds more like leftist propaganda to me. So instead of calling something, saying the Inflation Reduction Act, when you really meant pushing a green agenda, or women's reproductive health when you really meant murdering preborn human babies. Now, I'm not saying you are saying it, but that's what's out there. Or deceitfully claiming censorship or hatred when brave, moral parents and citizens desire to follow state law and city codes by removing sexually explicit material from the minor sections of a public library to adult sections. So if it looks like, sounds like, swims like a duck, it probably is. So the second thing is, why is it so hard to remove, simply protect our children and remove sexually explicit books and things from our children's section of the library? You know, Martin Luther King Jr. in his letter to from a Birmingham jail said, "A just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. An unjust law is out of harmony with the moral law." So when I'm thinking about that, I think about what Yeshua himself said. He said it's better for a millstone to be tied around a neck and thrown to the depths of the sea if someone makes one of these little ones to stumble, talking about children. So finally, I'll leave you with this quote from Ecclesiastes 10:2. "A wise man's heart directs him towards the right, but the foolish man's heart directs him to the left." Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Eli McKay.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Manager. My name is Eli McKay, and I live in beautiful uptown Corpus Christi, District 1. I'm here today also to speak on the agenda item regarding the proposed changes to public comment. And while I do appreciate the idea to ensure all citizens who show up are allowed 3 minutes, regardless of their zip code, however, I do not agree with the reducing of the time to 75 minutes. This proposed system is used by places like San Patricio County and the Port of Corpus Christi, which rarely have more than a handful of people showing up to their public comments. Nueces County allows the judge to limit time and speakers, which I've never seen. Why would she do that? Why would you want to do that? The Port, I believe, would have more public commenters, but they host their meetings inconveniently and fluctuating the time between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. The same goes for San Patricio and Nueces County, as their meetings are always on Mondays or Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. These options are practically impossible for working people to make. The system may make sense for those entities. That system may make sense for those entities, but it does not make sense for a city of our size. We need to mimic larger cities and follow what they do, such as hosting public comment the evening before the meeting so that working class community members can easily attend and make comments. Moving the time to 75 minutes, as others have said, would mean that there would only be room for about 25 speakers to get their full time. Every single meeting this year has had more than that. January 14th, there were 37 speakers. That would make it 2 minutes, 2 seconds per speaker under the new rule. January 28th, there were 46 speakers, which would make it 1 minute, 38 seconds per speaker under the new rule. February 11th was 44 speakers, and that would make it 1 minute, 42 seconds per speaker under the new rule. This is a way to stifle and silence the concerns of the people. I also know, as was stated, that those who signed up and are not here are against the 75 minutes, but they're unable to attend because it's, public comment is at noon on a Tuesday. They're likely working. So this idea to me sounds like it came from a rich friend of y'all's who sits at home in another city watching and not wanting to spend their time viewing the well-spoken, passionate comments from the citizens of Corpus Christi. So I ask, in every single case, please stop listening to self-serving individuals. Instead, use your discernment and guidance from the community to make decisions that will best move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Naomi Linst. Jennifer Ellis. Marshall Morin. Marshall Morin. Pilar Gonzalez. Pilar Gonzalez. Sally Wilson. Is Sally Wilson with us? Brandy Mygat. Okay, Brandy Mygat is not with us. James Gonzalez. Samantha Clark. James Gonzalez or Samantha Clark. Michael Aradias.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor, City Manager, staff. My name is Alfredo Miguel Cervantes Sanchez Aradias, Jr. IV, District 3. I am a concerned citizen, a concerned taxpayer, a concerned registered voter. I am a radio talk show host on KSIX, 1230 AM, 95.1 FM. I cite that because I'd like to start, I hope it's not a weekly item, because this is the first time I'm doing public comment in the 28 years I've lived in Corpus Christi. But I would like to start Attitude Adjustment Tuesday, because that is what is in dire need of this city council and your colleagues. The fact that anybody would entertain the idea of limiting public comment is shameful. I don't know who put it up on the agenda. I don't know who instructed the person to put it on the agenda, but that is shameful. I find it, in the immortal words of Alanis Morissette, I find it ironic that I'm having to utilize public comment to defend my right to have a public comment. That is ridiculous. That is comical. Every single one of you has been on my show at one time or another. Not once have I ever limited you to 3 minutes. Not once have I ever told you, I'm sorry, I don't have time to hear you because we got other things I've got to do. And I'm just here for entertainment. You all are actually here to create policy and to lead our community. This is like the real stuff. So for Attitude Adjustment Tuesday, let me go ahead and remind the people that have decided to be elected officials and leaders of my community. You'll notice the sign above your head. It says City of Corpus Christi. It doesn't say City Council of Corpus Christi. It says City of Corpus Christi. The people that are sitting behind me, we are the city. We chose you. We are your boss. You work for us. We do not work for you. Somewhere along the way, that message got lost. The fact that anybody would entertain the idea or the concept of limiting the people of Corpus Christi and their ability to speak to you is absurd and offensive, and it's not up for discussion. It's not up for debate. It shouldn't even be a thought. This is my building. This is my microphone. This is my podium. This is my room. This isn't a privilege on my part. This is my right. You are the one that is privileged to be able to represent me. That's where the attitude adjustment needs to take place. You must remind yourself effective immediately. You are here to serve we the people. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, would you please refrain from clapping? Thank you, sir. Julia Lee. Julia Lee. Laramie Fain.
Thane, Corpus Christi, Texas. Just two short things today. As was mentioned by Andrea earlier, our local DSA chapter has put in an application to adopt Lindell Park over by All Saints Episcopal. Several months ago, we've reached out to the point of contact a few times, haven't heard anything back, so if we could just get something back from somebody on that, that'd be great. We just want to adopt a park. Secondly, about agenda item 17, public comment is the only surefire mechanism that residents have to voice our concerns and interface with all of you directly and guarantee that you're hearing us. and in a way that puts it on the public record. Generates discussion and is a key component of the democratic process. To limit the time a resident may speak even further hampers that process. It's difficult enough to prepare a comment for 3 minutes. I've seen many people go over. I can't imagine preparing a comment not even knowing how much time I'm going to have to give that comment. Trying to determine what to prioritize and what to leave out on the spot seems impossible. Furthermore, suppose something like what happened today happens, where several people sign up, and like half of them can't make it out for whatever reason. Is that time already allocated? You have a responsibility as leaders to listen, and the people have a right to speak. And you should want to listen. If it's a matter of time, you can find somewhere else to cut it. Or you could have a separate dedicated meeting solely for public comment that's more equitable, at a more equitable time for working class people. That's all I had to say today. I hope to see you all tonight at the listening session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fain. Peter, can we address his first comment? Or
I didn't catch that. I couldn't hear us too well, but we'll look at the Adopt a Park, right? That's in Parks and Rec. I'm not sure if you said planning, but we have a note, and our Parks Director will reach out to you.
Thank you, Mr. Fain. Catherine Aller?
Lindale?
Lindale.
Okay, very good. We'll
Okay.
follow up with them.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Aller.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Oler. I live in District 1. A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I drove to our rented storage space in the area of Saratoga and Weber. When we arrived at the gated facility, we immediately saw 2 large dogs inside the gate, both of whom had no collars and looked emaciated, with one that seemed on the verge of being disabled. He and I agreed that we needed to and should contact Animal Care Services. I made the call, and Corpus Christi Animal Care Services officers Eric Charette and Andrea Tapia responded in a very short time. Their work in establishing that the 2 dogs were chipped was done quickly. Their ability to work kindly and as gently as possible in getting the dogs, 2 Great Danes, into the animal care vehicle, it was commendable. We shared our appreciation of their skilled and caring manner with the Office of Corpus Christi Animal Care Services. And I now share with you, council members, our thanks for how well Officers Charette and Tapia responded so quickly, deeply mindful of the task at hand. We hope that you will work hard to allocate sufficient funds for animal services. Their numbers of animals in their care is very large, and it's growing. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing good things about what's happening.
Thank you, Ms. Oler. Gary Lester? Is Gary Lester with us? Tom Whitehurst Jr.?
Hello, Tom Whitehurst, District 2. How are y'all doing? I'm here to address the public comment. I'm not going to call y'all fascists. Y'all have been called fascists several times today. You might, take something from that. I've also heard y'all called out for showing up to, veterans things and, without calling out specific council members. I think I see 2 people who actually served. Thank y'all for that. I also saw something very special happen here today because of public comment. I saw somebody who comes, I think, once a week, every time, and addresses y'all every time, and addressed a situation involving the fact that it's going to get really cold overnight and for the next few days. And, this is somebody who takes care of the people that I will refer to as there but for the grace of God go I. Okay? I saw actual action occur because she addressed you and you responded, and that's great. I just shudder to think that if she hadn't have been able to do that because of a limit, maybe she got late on the list, she wouldn't have had that opportunity, and that might not have happened at this crucial time for those people who I know I'll be home warm while they're outside. And that person goes that extra mile, and I'm glad that some part of your staff is going the extra mile also. Thank God for that. Thank y'all for that. You know, I think all of y'all know that I used to work in the newspapers with the Caller-Times. I had a 40-year career in newspaper journalism. And, you know, I used to manage the letters to the editor, among other things. And each letter, I always said, because I'm sure about this, represented at least like 2,000 people who felt the same way and wanted to write a letter to the editor, but just couldn't get up the gumption to do it. And then beyond that were probably several thousand more who felt the same way about the issue, but just don't care quite as much. I can say standing here, talking to you, I've got time on my hands because I'm retired, you know. So I can sit and wait and all that, but you had a whole bunch of people who couldn't show up. You also had at least one, and I'm sure it wasn't the only one, who flat out told me, this person said she had a hard time. Am I already done? Okay. Anyway, think about the people who are afraid to get up here to talk. That's all I was going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehurst. That concludes our in-person public comment. I believe we have 3 on WebEx. Ms. Huerta?
Yes, ma'am. Nora Signs. Okay, Mayor, I understand on the list, the 2 people who are online, the first one is Alberto Zertuche.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Zertuche, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Albert Sartuche. I live at 3601 Cub Street. Good afternoon, tax-paid city council officials. I'm here for Agenda 25-0259. I am a locally owned veteran-owned business here in Corpus Christi. I have a Team Hard Life YouTube channel. We're at 211,000 subscribers. We are also sharing everything that is happening with the city council, with our YouTube members, so that way they can stay up to speed at what is going on. We shared this on Friday, on Saturday, and yesterday, and this morning about what y'all are trying to do by limiting our ability to freedom of speech for these events. This is very important for y'all to pay attention. Y'all have been calling out dozens of names of people that are at work that do not feel the way y'all do by giving the right to limit our freedom of speech. They would like to speak, but again, too, do not have the ability to take time off of their day to come in and waste their time to fight for the right that is already there. This is them speaking about this grievance, which our veterans have already fought for our freedom of speech to be able to do this. To those who vote to limit our rights to speak will be held accountable by the voters coming next time we vote. And it shows this last time y'all had to work really hard to get those positions y'all fought for to get voted in. And we just started our campaigning this past season, a few months before the votes were cast. So now we are starting our campaign today, or actually it's already started. Those that take care of our city will be taken care of when it comes time to vote. We are speaking up because you are not doing the job you ran for, got voted in for office by limiting our voice to ensure you push your own private agendas. It shows y'all aren't doing your jobs when multiple people are complaining about your communication that isn't being done. The proof is right there when they're having to come up and let you know, hey, they've sent multiple emails, they've called multiple times, yet you opened up the deal today saying, oh, if you have any comments, concerns, or questions, just call us, just email us, and y'all aren't even returning the calls and doing the due diligence of following up. I heard on the radio as of today, the Texas version of Doge is being created. We are excited to hear this because as taxpayers, we are already sharing what's going on here with our state representative and everyone else that we know to be able to do this. I am encouraging y'all to start doing the right thing for the city, not for your wallets. Start taking care of the people that voted you in, that you wanted this position. So all the overtime and all of that, that's on y'all. If y'all need to limit time, start doing it by yourselves, amongst yourselves, and limiting your time. Instead of 10 to 20 minutes, maybe
Thank you,
reduce it
sir.
to 5.
Appreciate it. Next, we have Eric Jaramillo.
Hi, good afternoon. Eric Jaramillo. I reside in District 3, Corpus Christi, Texas. Today, I would like to formally introduce myself and formally ask for your vote and consideration for filling a vacant seat on the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. It's not on the agenda today, so don't get surprised or anything like that. It's on the agenda for next month, just getting ahead of it. And again, would like to formally let you know that I'm extremely interested in donating my time to serve on this committee with Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. Just to put things in context, I've been a part of a lot of initiatives that would serve as a succession plan for the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee that I would like to share with you. Currently, I do volunteer my time with the General Land Office under the Adopt a Beach program. I've been serving in this role, in this capacity since 2021. I'm the local site coordinator for cleanups in Cole Park. We were just there past February 8th, where over 70 volunteers showed up and we collected over 300 pounds of trash in Cole Park, a park that is extremely maintained and well done by Parks and Rec. Just to go to show you that the job's never done from that too. And but since my time, I'm proud to state, since serving in that capacity since 2021, we have picked up over 4,000, or I've overseen over 4,000 pounds of trash picked up in Cole Park in that capacity from that. Furthermore, from 2018 to 2021, I did serve as the manager for the Downtown Management District Clean Team, where I deployed resources Monday through Sunday. We worked 7 days a week from Shoreline all the way up to Tonkawa. It was 49 blocks that we oversaw where we cleaned downtown, and oversight of safetiness as well too, but hundreds of man hours and projects of beautification projects throughout downtown as well. From irrigation to various beautification projects for the residents of downtown, tourism, and business owners as well too. So I had 3 years experience of that. Just to put things in a context of what I can offer the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. So again, I formally ask for your support and your vote when you review this next month. In the meantime, I'll put some additional information about my background and what I can offer in your inbox from that, and reach out if you have any questions. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Mayor, the rest of the individuals are not online. We do have some in-person people who have signed up who are not residents.
So for clarity, Nora Signs, David Garanco, Elizabeth Mayorga, Filiberto Cortez, they are not here, or no, they are not online.
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
And Naomi Linsner, is she with us?
No, ma'am. The only people I was told were Alberto Certuche and Eric Jaramillo, those two individuals who spoke.
So
Ms. Linsner, Esmeralda Hinojosa,
yeah,
Nicolas Certuche Polanco, Jeffrey Barra. Those individuals
Hold
are
on
not
just
online.
a second. So Esmeralda was the next one. She's not online.
No, ma'am.
Naomi Linsner's not online. Nicolas Certuche Polanco, not online.
No.
Jeffrey Ibarra, not online.
No.
Eric DeLeon is
an in-person?
not a resident. In person, is he here? Eric DeLeon. Katya Kuzmina, non-resident, but in person, is she here? Mike Gooderslow, non-resident but in person. Ralph Kruger, non-resident in person. Is he here? Toby Hatch, non-resident but in person. Aubrey Nevins, non-resident in person. Okay, we'll go back to WebEx, non-resident. Ms. Huerta?
Okay, and I understand those individuals are not online either, who are Daniel Garcia, Sergio Luis, John Grew, and Blue Hartley.
They are not online.
No, ma'am.
Okay, then that concludes our public comment. Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and take it to Section G, Board Committee Appointments.
Mayor, there's one committee here for your review. Just to provide a little background on the committee, the city's investment policy established the investment committee, which is before you today. So before 2024, the committee was an internal committee composed of the city manager and city budget and finance staff. However, in August of 2024, the council changed the committee composition by amending the investment policy to add 2 council members appointed by the mayor, one of which may be the mayor, and confirmed by the city council. And that's for a term concurrent with the member's elected term. So that new composition became effective on February the 1st of 2025. And this committee meets quarterly. Just for information too, the committee is responsible for the following. They review quarterly investment reports before submission to the council, determine operational strategies, monitor investment results, annually adopt the list of qualified brokers, and monitor, review, and make recommendations annually regarding the investment policy. So today, Mayor, you have your recommendation is to appoint Councilmember Vaughn and yourself to the committee.
Correct.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, please submit your vote, or can it be a voice vote?
Voice vote, please.
Yeah, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. The motion carries. And that, yes, ma'am, that's all you have there?
That concludes board appointments.
Thank you. We'll move on to consent agenda items 4 through 14. Is there any council member that would like to pull any items 4 through 14 for individual consideration? Is there anyone in the public that would like to pull any item to make comment on items 4 through 14? Okay, there being...
Mayor, Councilmember Roy will be abstaining on 10.
Oh.
Yeah, so that one will be pulled.
So we will pull that one. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda with the exception of item number 10.
I move for second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. The motion carries. In item number 10, we are pulling, this is a zoning case number ZN. Well, we voted voice. Is that okay? Or did you want, we voted voice?
Okay, yeah, I had started it. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were going to do that, so.
That's okay. Sorry about that. I got carried away there. Zoning case number ZN 8501. This is Cross Timbers Steakhouse, Inc. This is pulled, or I'm sorry, he is abstaining from it.
I move for approval.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Please submit your vote. The motion carries. Section K is public hearings, items 15 and 16. I believe we're pulling item number 15 for
Right,
a future council meeting.
That's
So
correct.
we'll go to item number 16, which is a zoning case number ZN 8539, 2AVH Cal Allen.
All right. We are officially afternoon. Good afternoon, council members, mayor. There we go. Before use case ZN 8539, the applicant is 2AVH Cal Allen LP. The property is in District 1 with a request for rezoning from the Farm Rural District to the CG2 Commercial District for a future shopping center and restaurant spaces. The property is approximately 25.2 acres
And you may remember this property back from December's council meeting. It received a Chapter 380 agreement for incentives. So again, the purpose is to allow for commercial development, restaurant uses, retail. The property is part of the Northwest Area Development Plan adopted in 2001. To the north is low-density residential. To the south is agriculture. To the east is transportation, it's the highway. And then to the west is agricultural, R6 and some CG2. Basically along the corridor, it's developing.
Make a motion to approve.
Stole my thunder.
We have a motion and a second. I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make comment on item number 16? Okay, there being no one, we'll close that. And does the applicant wish to speak if he's here, she or he is here? Okay. And we have no questions or comments. Any further discussion on this? Okay, please submit your vote. Okay, the motion carries. Section L, individual consideration items 17 and 18. Item number 17 is a motion to ensure fair and efficient public participation by allocating each person speaking as a public commenter up to 3 minutes or 75 minutes divided by the number of speakers, whichever is less. This is an item and a topic that was brought to my attention by several council members. As a courtesy, I put this item on the agenda, so I'd like to yield my yield the item over to Councilwoman Vaughn at this time. Oops, no. Hang on.
Thank you. There's been a lot of comment about this in the public. It's been on Facebook. It's been on reels that people have put on. There's been a lot of innuendos and ugliness and calling people names. And I'm not here to take up for anybody, but a lot of those names were called to the city manager and the mayor. And I will tell you, since I've been back on council, I'm shocked at the meanness that has gone on. And words matter. They really matter. So you shouldn't accuse people unless you know the truth. It's going to surprise all of you. I requested this to be put on the agenda. And the reason I did it is this is a business meeting. We want to hear from everybody. This is not about taking away free speech. That's not what it's about. But we have a lot of things that we have to do. We've got to get roads done, infrastructure. We've got to get water. And we spend 3 hours at public comment. It might surprise you to know we're the only entity that does not have a timeline. The county has one. They just did that last week. In Nueces River Authority, the port, CCISD, Cal Island, Tolosa Midway, they have a time limit. This is not taking away free speech. That is a lie that was put on Facebook and told here today too. It is a flat out lie. That's not true. We want to hear from you. We hear comments and we learn from those comments. There's not one person that doesn't want to hear from you. That's not what this is about. It's about running an efficient meeting. This is so many millions of dollars that you spend up here that Mr. Sinoni has to oversee, and we have to oversee him. It's not about being tired, it's about being clear-minded. So we have to make sure that we are. So full disclosure, because I'm honest and I said I'd be transparent, I was the main one that wanted this to happen because I think it's important and we have to move forward. So bring whatever you got for me. That's okay. We've got to have efficient meetings and we can't continue like this. So I move to amend the motion to strike out 75 minutes and insert 60 minutes between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And let me just say, this is not the only way that you contact us. You can speak on any agenda item for 3 minutes, any agenda item. You can text us, you can email us, and we will meet with you. That's up to you if you want to do that. This is not about limiting comments. I want to make that clear because that's not what it's about. It's not that we don't want you to speak. We want to hear from you.
Councilwoman, I'm going to get to you. We do have a motion. We have a second. Councilwoman Campos.
Okay, first of all, I thought we had already passed procedure that in order to bring an agenda item to the council, it must be requested by 3 council members. I did not see that in this agenda item. So are we telling now our constituents, our citizens, that one person can decide to bring an agenda item? Who can?
No. So it was, Councilwoman, it was multiple council members that went to the city manager and myself. As a courtesy, either one of us can put that on an agenda, or, as you know, and just stated, the three people can sign a memo. So one way or the other, it was going on the agenda. As a courtesy, just like the city manager, we look to see, well, if you have multiple council members, regardless of the topic, whether we agree with the topic or not, you have multiple council members who make comment and ask, then yes, we can put that on. Either one of us can put that on.
Okay, so let me understand this right now. She just made, Councilman Yvonne, can you please repeat the motion that you just made?
Wait, click your light again, Councilwoman.
I move to amend the motion to strike out 75 minutes and insert 60 minutes between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m.
No. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Barrera.
Here, I just want to state that, once again, I think the challenge is there's some very contentious items at times, and we just want to ensure that those individuals have the opportunity to speak at the agenda item. I think that oftentimes, and I've made this statement several times, if somebody wants to complain about an aggressive animal that's not on the agenda and ACS isn't doing their job, then that person has a right to come and not to be, when there's a particular special interest that has an item, whether it be informed consent with regard to vaccinations, whether it be desalination, whether it be drought contingency, those individuals have the right to be heard during that agenda item. It's just, we need to protect the free speech of those individuals that do not have an item on the agenda to be drowned out by those that have a particular special interest. And so I think this is the most fair way to to protect the rights of those individuals in lieu of hearing 10, 15, 20 people speak on one particular item. And oftentimes, that special interest is a paid staffer. They're a paid activist. All right? And so if they're paid activists, then I would think that they should speak at that agenda item. And that could include the Coastal Bend Industry Association. That could include those individuals. So we're not taking the right away. We're simply managing it so that way we improve the rights of those individuals that don't have an item on the agenda. So that's one reason I support this, and I think it helps us to organize the process, and it doesn't limit speech of any individual. It's just now that they're limited to be able to speak on the agenda item, which they're free to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, one thing, point of order. Did we need to make a motion on the original item, or do we add the amendments, or is it already assumed that we're making a motion on that item?
The motion's posted, so it's
okay,
there. So we can make the amendment.
Okay, so I want to make just, because we do this differently. So we should, if we're going to make a motion to approve, then we should make the amendment on it and be consistent on how we do that, because it's a little confusing. I wasn't sure on that. Secondly, I think I had some questions on this. The way this is written, does this make it to where people from out of town are also going to be given the same amount of time as everybody as well? Because it doesn't have any language for people that are outside the city.
No, my understanding was the intent was to leave the 1 minute for non-residents.
Actually, I would like to give them.
You can turn on your light, please.
I would like to give them more than that, because, they purchase water, they're customers. I never liked it where they weren't getting enough time. So I say to add to that, to change it to 2 minutes.
Okay, so just based on the language, if we're changing the language, that means it changes the dynamics for people out of town. Now, there are two different people that I consider out of town, those who are customers of ours in terms of water and those that aren't. Like, for example, if you're from Brownsville, you're not a water customer, but if you're from Portland, you are. So it's not quite, it's not apples and apples.
How about with just within our region right here, Gail? You're making it really complicated.
Well, the devil's in the details, right? And so I always say that because I'm the weeds kind of guy, right? So I want to make sure that we're not creating a problem and have to come back to it afterwards. So I don't know. I'll come back and maybe add an amendment to include that portion of it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Campos.
Just to add further discussion to this motion, as you could see today, we had numerous people making the effort to at least make the attempt to voice their opposition against this motion. And it does require more discussion. I believe like we haven't still learned from our past here that, we need to start listening to our citizens. And one of the things, whether you agree with me or not, it is limiting our First Amendment. And I would hope that my fellow council members have reconsidered with what has been presented. I would also like to add to an amendment if this is all that we have to work with. So I'd like to reserve my time to come back to this after discussion from my fellow council members.
Councilman Scott.
I didn't put this on the agenda. I didn't ask anybody to put it on the agenda, but now you basically asked my opinion, so I'm going to give it to you. The comments I've gotten are that we're a $1.8 billion entity. We have 29 lines of business, and it's important that we get on with the people's business. And there's a debate over the definition of people's. My sense is it includes all 40,000 people who expect us to fill a pothole, go get some water, protect our citizens, which, by the way, thank you for what you do. Side note, I was watching the firefighters. I guess they must be trainees working on spraying water over at Doddridge, and I don't want that job. Thank you for what you do. Yeah, that was interesting. I don't think it limits free speech. Others disagree. I don't think we're limiting any conversation on an agenda item, right? I'm just curious. It's been a while. Do we limit the amount of time people speak on agenda items?
It's 3 minutes for both. Mm-hmm.
So that's not affected by this. So anybody wants to speak on an agenda item. I told the media earlier today, and there was some criticism in the audience, which I think I'm sensitive to, that I have a cell phone. I have 1, 2, 3 email addresses. I'm generally at a Whataburger or an HEB or a filling station, Stripes, many times throughout the week. Which maybe I need to eat better, but I do think we are accessible to the public in a variety of different ways. But hey, I'll do whatever the council says. I support this concept, but whatever we want to do. So you asked me my opinion, I'm giving it to you. I'm just telling you I'm not, this is not a high priority to me.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm going to go ahead and open public comment for anyone who has not already spoken on this subject. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment on item number 17? Who has not? Go ahead, sir, if you'll, is that?
Yes, I signed up for public comment on item 17, and the presentation I gave earlier wasn't anything about public comment. So my name is John Weber, Corpus Christi. I will be addressing the mayor and the city council regarding item 17 within my constitutional rights, according to the city attorney, section 5J. Last Friday at 4:42 p.m., I downloaded today's agenda, and item 17 was regarding HVAC improvements for the ABC Arena. At 8:18 p.m. on Friday night, I downloaded it again, and item 17 was regarding limiting public comment. I recommend the council vote against this for the following reasons. This will be unneeded if crafting the agenda and running the meeting are done properly. This will be unneeded if the City Council follows the City Charter, Part 1, Article 2, Section 14, Letter A, and has meetings at least once a week. As former Councilmember Klein suggested, council members should have shorter time limits for their comments on an item. If I spend 5 hours researching and preparing a presentation for this council and rehearse it dozens of times to make sure it ends under 3 minutes, what am I to do if I were required without notice to reduce my time by a given amount? The mayor should not interrupt the people during public comment. At the last meeting, the mayor's interruption turned a 3-minute comment into a 6-minute, 55-second comment. I timed it. Please just listen to commenters. That'll make the meetings go a lot faster. These are the immediate concerns that need to be addressed. Please vote no on item 17 and vote yes to hear from the public who elected you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Is there anyone else? Mr. Klein.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jim Klein. I live in District 2. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I think this is a bad idea. Don't do this. As a friend of mine at Baylor University told me once, I feel the need to tell you about a freight train coming down the tracks. This is going to end badly. You know, even one of the recent meetings, the public comment ran, I think, for 2.5 hours. The meeting was 9 hours in all. The vast majority of the meeting was not from public comment. I think that steps can be taken to reduce the amount of time each council member has to speak on an agenda item, rather than each council member being allowed to speak twice on each item for up to 10 minutes. That should be limited to, I would say 3, but if we could compromise at 5, I'd be open to that as well. And I think as well, there needs to be better management of the meeting. I'm talking about the construction of the agenda. To have an agenda one week that has 30-plus items or 40-plus items on it, and the agenda item the next week has fewer than 20 items, I think that's an evidence of mismanagement. I think you need to balance out the agenda items a bit more. Some of those are not time sensitive. They could be pushed from a large agenda meeting to a following meeting when you have a lighter agenda, so as to accommodate this, to make sure that the meeting ends in a timely manner. Nobody wants long meetings, especially because long meetings tend to produce decisions that are not in the best interest of the general public. Nobody wants that. So I urge you not to vote against this. The council needs to hear from the public. If we're going to have government of the people, by the people, and for the people, we need to listen to the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Is there anyone else?
Good afternoon, Council. Connor Rice, District 2. I'm going to reiterate what Councilman Klein said, but actually, like, on the efficiency and the technicality that he was mentioning, I used AI to track the last council meeting, and there was 27 Robert Rules of Order violations. 27. So, like, we could run a more efficient meeting if we actually did follow Robert Rules of Order. That's not a jab at anyone. You know, we all take responsibility. Anyone can make a point of order to make our meeting more efficient, but even AI pointed out we had 27 violations of Robert Rules of Order. So if we just followed the rules, we'd actually have a more efficient meeting. So then our community could actually show up when their agenda item came up. The problem is right now is that if we're coming for an agenda item, we don't know when to come because our council meetings are 10 hours long, you know? So if you plan to be here and take off at 3 o'clock from your lunch break to come and speak on an agenda item, that item may not come up until 6 p.m. That's the problem, and I think that's why many of us are opposing this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close public comment. And we do have a motion and a second on the floor. You have an amendment? Okay.
I would also like to add the amendment as was previously stated by my ex, Dr. Jim Klein, which was if we're going to limit our public comments, then I think we should also limit our city council comments. We can certainly shorten these minutes or these meetings if we do our preparation ahead of time. And so I'd like to make the motion amendment to limit our council members to 5 minutes on an agenda item.
That's not germane to the a motion that we have before us right now. So that can be made at another time, but that's not directly related to what we're talking about right now.
Excuse me, Rebecca, are we not speaking about public comments and how the meeting, how that time is reflected with our agenda items? Because it has to do with our meetings, and if they're not run properly, it does have to do with leadership. When we have 40 items on one agenda and then 17 on another, that does play.
Under our current rules, I think, okay, that's discussion on a motion that's out of order. So, yeah, at this point, the motion, I'm just letting the mayor, you would make the call, but the motion is not in order right now.
Okay, so the motion's not in order, Councilwoman, but she's obviously saying that that's a separate issue that you could bring up in terms of changing times for council members or some other things that were brought up. Today is just about this particular motion, which is 60 minutes, and changing that time slot.
No, with my amendment to limit, we still won't be able to do that right now then.
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
then.
Okay, Councilman, do you have an amendment, or do you have a comment, sir?
Actually, I do have an amendment, but I want to make sure I'm clear that we have a motion, and we have a motion and a second for the original motion, for the original item, and then we have an amendment.
Council members, I'm sorry, can we have a motion and a second on the original motion?
I think we do.
Yeah, it's on the motion to amend, so can we please have that first? Yeah.
Oh, I see. So she stated, right, the 60 minutes from 75. Okay, so would y'all like to do a?
I move for approval.
Okay, for approval of the motion, correct, to amend?
No.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, the original one, I'm sorry.
The original motion.
Yes, okay, in a second, right?
And then we need a second
The original.
for the original motion. Okay, so no, we're out of order.
So there was, Rebecca, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Just, why don't you explain it so everybody's clear?
Okay, so
first
he
motion
brought a
was-
point of order that we should approve the main motion first. So we're doing that right now, and then we're going to take Ms. Vaughn's
But explain,
amendment.
the main motion said 75 minutes.
That's right.
Councilwoman Vaughn amended it essentially to 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to, excuse me, now we need to make a motion to amend
That's
to
right,
60
which has been
minutes.
made.
I just want to, let's keep everything very clear.
Yes, we're going to be very by the book, so I
Yes, we are.
apologize. We're going to be very by the book.
So we have a motion. Is there a second
Okay.
for the original 75 minutes?
Yes. Okay, great.
It's the same.
Okay, so now we're going to do
Yes,
the motion
Councilman
to
Scott.
amend, because we don't need a vote on that. Okay, so we're going to do the motion to amend. Are we ready?
Well, I know I'm trying to keep things, Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, then then she put in a motion to amend.
Yes.
And
Right.
Councilmember Valdez seconded. So I'd like to make an amendment after that vote.
Okay, so after this,
What is your amendment?
well,
We're
going to vote on this
It's
first.
going to depend on this, on the vote of
Oh,
this
okay.
original amendment.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second to pass this item with 60 minutes. That was the amendment, because originally it was 75. So
Right.
that's what we have on the floor. Please submit your vote. The motion fails.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to make an emotion to, and bear with me here, I'm trying to split the baby here. I often make references to Solomon, so I'm going to try to do that. I want to replace the entire motion with motion to allocate each person speaking as a public commenter to up to 3 minutes. If there are more than 25 speakers, each person will be allotted up to 2 minutes. Persons that are residents of the region that are served by Corpus Christi Water, CCW, are also allotted the same time to speak as residents. Those persons that are outside the service area of CCW are limited to 1 minute. That's my motion to amend.
That's not an amendment, that's a totally different motion.
Well, it's to replace. I said a motion to amend to replace the language.
No, you said a motion to amend, that's not an amendment.
No.
That's a totally different motion.
I said to replace the language
But I
of the motion.
Okay.
Can you do that? I mean, we have a written motion, so I understand, it's kind of like Councilwoman Campos. She didn't get to amend because it has, there's no correlation to it, so if this is a completely different motion, can that be done?
Okay, I'll have to say a point of order. This is talking about public comment. My motion has everything to do with public comment. Now, I understand, I was trying to go through this and I was listening, my own thoughts coming into this, and I actually made some thoughts about how to do this. Obviously, we have a situation where we have very long public comment periods and not very efficiently run. I think this will allow us to reduce the public comment timeframe, but yet still keep a semblance of at least a minimum. There was a comment that people would come in and not know how much time they would have. Well, this would give them the upfront information to at least a minimum of 2 minutes. Plus, also, I know Councilwoman Campos had made many mentions of that people that are served by CCW that are only given 1 minute, even though they are provided information from or provided services from the city. This would also rectify a complaint that she's had for over a year at least. And those persons outside the service would be limited to 1 minute. So, and those were issues we had when people were calling in from California to address issues that we had here locally. So I will, again, restate it.
Can we have it in writing, please? Because it's...
So I'm going to go ahead and go to Councilman Roy. You have a comment, sir?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm actually confused. And the reason why I say that is that we started this motion with an amendment. And if I think what Councilmember Hernandez is saying is that we should have started this motion with the motion to read it basically the way it was on the bulletin, and then do the amendment. Is that correct? Yes. But you didn't really do that, because what happened was this last vote, which I was confused on, I didn't understand, was I voting on the 75 or the 60? Because I think if you go back and review the tape, you're not going to see where we actually went and did the original motion. So I'm just letting you know, my vote, I made a vote, but it wasn't based on what I thought was accurate information. And so we did change procedure, because what we should have done was we should have voted on the agenda item, and then if somebody wanted to make an amendment, then we could make an amendment, right? So I apologize for the confusion, but that's when we went out of order like that, it threw me off.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the proper procedure is to vote on the, not vote on it, but to make a motion and a second on the main motion and then make the amendment. That's correct.
That's right, so we did.
But, yeah, we did.
We did do it.
We went back.
Okay.
Did we not do that?
We did, but he wasn't clear on it when he voted, is what Councilmember Roy is saying.
We're not done with this vote, so.
Okay. Councilman Barrera.
Is there any way that we could? No, I'm asking, well, number one, I would agree with the city secretary that Councilmember Hernandez is just complete reworking. It's not, and I would hope that he would have contacted the city manager and or city staff to be able to clarify it so that way we can see it. Is there any way we can whiteboard it so we can see what it is that he's saying? Because it's
he has it in writing,
yeah,
so that's what.
Okay, but can I see it somewhere? Because it hasn't been made available.
Yeah, if we put it on the screen down there, you can.
If we can put it on the screen.
Yeah.
And Councilmember, I say this in jest. I say this in jest. I say this in the jest. I thought you were a Republican. You wanted less government. Instead, you have these issues that you want to, make these little amendments that create all this confusion, and it's just, and I think that's part of the challenge. Please, can we put that up on the screen? Okay, yeah, that's.
Okay, so it's.
Well, nonetheless, it still doesn't tell me. I mean, it's almost like an Excel spreadsheet. It's not. Persons that are residents of the region are served of Corpus Christi. Well, motion to allocate each person speaking as a public commenter to 3 minutes If there are more than 25 speakers, each person will be allowed up to 2 minutes. Okay? I'm writing that down here. So 25 times 2. Persons that are residents of the region are served by Corpus Christi Water are allotted the same time to speak as residents. Okay? So, Miles, I'm going to need your help here. You're going to have to say a yes or no if this is appropriate,
Right.
based on the language that was on the agenda.
I think it's within.
And no, yes or no is a perfectly good answer.
That
Yes
is
or no?
within.
Hold on a second, let me hear.
No, go ahead.
Rebecca's correct. It's outside the authority. It's more than an amendment to the motion. However, it is within the realm to make a motion overall that could do this within this subject matter. It's permissible within the subject matter, but it is not an amendment to that main motion.
Okay, so it's allowable is what you're telling me.
It's allowable as a motion on its own, but not as an amendment to this
Right.
main motion that
Okay.
you see written on the agenda.
So do we have, since a motion and a second has already been made for 75 minutes, should we vote on that first?
Yeah, we have not voted on the main motion yet.
So before, since that motion has to fail, in other words, for this motion to come?
Well, was there a second to the motion?
No, I know there's no second to his motion, but I'm asking from a legal perspective. A motion and a second has already been made for 75 minutes. Okay? That's correct. Correct? Nod your head. Yes, correct?
Yeah.
No confusion from every council member.
Right.
Every council member understands that. I just want to make sure. Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Now, his motion is not an amendment.
Yeah.
I'm asking for clarification. That's what I heard.
His motion is not an amendment. It can be made within the subject matter that's on the agenda, but it's not an amendment to the main motion.
So therefore, then he cannot make that motion until, I'm confirming, that motion cannot be made unless this one fails, which I'm sure it will, because he's gonna vote against it for the purpose of being able to get his motion done.
Now, that's a new question, and you really ought to ask that to the parliamentarian, and then I clarify what the
Because I know how
parliamentarian says.
his strategery works.
I'm sorry, I was answering a question. What did you say?
So Gil, apparently, Councilman Hernandez, you're holding us hostage, and I think the spirit of which the council members had spoke. Now, I'm open to discuss this perhaps at our goal-setting session, because one of the things I said at our goal-setting session was that we need to have a clear understanding of how our meetings work. And I would ask that you would, and I'll be one of your third signatures to bring it back. It's just, we have this tendency now, because we created this confusion, that this isn't the spirit of exactly what and I was one of the ones that brought it to the mayor and to Peter's attentions as well. And the purpose of it is, like I said, for uniformity, for those individuals that want to speak on a particular item, then those individuals will still have that right. This one in particular just limits the fact, and there's times that we've only had 6 public comment, when there's nothing, I should say, that's controversial on the agenda. So, I guess we have to either move, a motion has been made in a second.
Right, so that's what's on, we're back to the main motion because the motion to amend failed.
Can you read it again?
It's the motion on the agenda.
It's the motion.
That I'll read it again. It's a motion to ensure fair and efficient public participation by allocating each person speaking as a public commenter up to 3 minutes or 75 minutes divided by the number of speakers, whichever is less. That is what's on the floor right now.
The original. Okay, Councilman Hernandez, we're going to make it.
Okay.
This is your second.
This-
And then we're going to Councilman Scott, and then we're going to vote.
Okay, just real quick, I want to make sure I understand this, since it was I understand that it was a little odd here because we started off kind of poorly. But, so if this fails, I will make a motion, just like Councilman Butta had mentioned, that was going to be the case. And then if we'll see what happens, and then the original motion can be brought back up again if we want to do that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Scott.
Wow, this is interesting. So we're back to 5:30 to 7, 75 minutes is basically right. I think that does allow more opportunity for the public to show up, because if you're working 8 to 5, you can get here at 5:30, I would assume, and you could communicate, so I'm okay with that. I didn't realize, so what you're saying is if this dies, you're going to come back around and leave it still at whatever, 11:30 or
Sir,
12?
public comment would remain 12 to 1. Did you mean the listening session? What are you talking?
Nope.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out Gil's, but I guess it's irrelevant unless this fails.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second on the original motion. Okay. And again, Rebecca, the original motion, can you please read it? And then we're voting.
Yes, ma'am. The original motion is motion to ensure fair and efficient public participation by allocating each person speaking as a public commenter up to 3 minutes or 75 minutes divided by the number of speakers, whichever is less.
Okay, please submit your vote. I think they're working on it. There it is. The motion fails. Okay. Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, again, my attempt to split the baby here, if that's a reference of King Solomon with, I'm not going to go there. So I'll remake my motion to what I'd stated in the format. If you could get it back up on the screen, please. Mind you, this solves two issues. One, it improves the time frame that we have if we have a lot of people sign up for public comment, and it also addresses Councilwoman Campos's concern for citizens that are customers of CCW but only get 1 minute. So I make a motion to approve
We have a motion and a second.
Okay, could you read the motion, please?
Yeah.
Is a motion to allocate each person speaking as a public commenter up to 3 minutes. If there are more than 25 speakers, each person will be allocated up to 2 minutes. Persons that are residents of the region that are served by Corpus Christi Water are also allocated the same time to speak as residents. Those persons that are outside the service area of Corpus Christi Water are limited to 1 minute.
Okay, Councilman Cantu.
I'm confused. So this is a new motion.
So you've got it.
So the first one died, right?
The first one failed.
And then this one is going to be, is there a time frame? No time frame. That's it. No time frame. So 25 speakers, that's the only things like more or less time frame is over 25 speakers. It'll be 2 minutes, correct?
Councilman Hernandez.
So if you do 25 times 3, it's 75 minutes. And if you if you goes beyond that, then it drops down to 2 minutes for every person. So it does reduce the amount of time that's in there, but it gives people pretty much clarity as to how much time they'll have to speak. So I caught that as one of the main issues. Like, you show up and you don't know how much time you're going to have to speak, and you take a lot of time to prepare and make sure you can do something. So I wanted to be able to address that, but still limit, how long these public comments go. So, but it does give people a full measure of time to speak. Plus, it also addresses the issue of people that are CCW customers that don't have that right to speak as residents.
Got it. I like the way it already is. Leave it the way it is.
Okay. Does everyone understand what this next vote entails? Okay, please submit your vote. Oh. Yep.
Yes, you can. I would suggest take what you can. Take what you can.
The motion fails. Okay, Councilman Roy. And then you're next.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that, I listened to the public comment today and some of the input that we got. When you take a look at, I've been on three different councils. And I do believe that we need to do a little bit of work in terms of shoring up our procedures on our end, because I do think we spend some time here where we could utilize that time better in terms of streamlining things. And I think as a new council, I think we're going to work on that. I believe that. On the other hand, I look at 3 minutes and I think about 3 minutes. Most of the time when people get up here, if you're not experienced, and some of you are, 3 minutes goes by really quick. I actually, on the other hand, have had to do this on, I can't remember the occasion, but I had 3 minutes to speak. Oh, I know what it was. It was during the election period. I think it might have been the League of Women's Voters or some forum that they gave you 3 minutes, and it was up quick. I really think we need to look at this issue down the line, but I don't think the way that we were trying to go about it today. I appreciate the council members that brought it up, because I do believe it needs to be looked at, and I think it needs to be looked at in its totality, and then we come back and make some better recommendations, because until then, it's an important enough subject that I think that we have to make sure that we put a lot of work into this. And we come back, because I think that there's a couple things that we can do on your end and on our end to make it a better experience. Thank you.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
Mr. Sinoni, it is clear that there's a problem up here. We depend on the legal, we depend on Rebecca for the Roberts Rules of Orders. We're not getting it. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. This should never happen. This is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. We've got to do something. Council members, obviously, we all need to know what Robert's rules are. We better be bringing the book. But they should know. They should be directing. I'm just saying, we've got to do something. We can't continue to run these meetings like this.
Yeah, understood, Councilwoman. Tomorrow, in fact, at the new council orientation, we're going to go over Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedures, and just the decorum of the meetings. So
yeah.
We can go over that again on the city council retreat that we'll have on March 31, April 1 as well. We can add that to the
Yeah, and I would add, Councilwoman, excuse me, sorry about that, that, we're hearing a lot from the public. They want 27. That's going to work both ways. And I know you know that, Connor. I know you do. But there are a lot of rules, and you're absolutely right. Councilman, I'm sorry if you'll hold off on that. There are a lot of rules. We just sat down, because Rebecca's a parliamentarian, 30 years. So yes, this book right here. It's not Peter. He's our city manager. This book right here is what she lives by. And now we also have a responsibility to know Robert's rules. But our responsibility, we're policymakers, so you're absolutely right. We need the help of legal. I've said it many times, yes or no, not the legal answer. Can they do that? Can they not? Can we do this? Can we not? Yes or no. You'll be yelled at for saying yes sometimes and yelled at for saying no. Rebecca, you have 9 bosses. You're not going to please all 9. We have to step up and say, nope, Mr. Weber's right. I'm not saying, does the public want to comment on a consent agenda item? But I have to rely on you to say, hey, wait, Mayor, you didn't say it. All this game is going to step up. And it's going to be a lot of rules, because point of orders don't just get thrown out. That's one thing I learned in studying. I've been studying this book. You don't do a point of order just to say point of order and then you vote. But nobody's correcting that. There has to be a vote to back up that point of order. The outbursts, they're going to be called out. Every single one. I let 3 of them go. So get your report card out. I let 3 of them go. The outbursts are going to be called out. So please don't get upset when everybody's calling out everything on Robert's rules, because I promise you all, it's what you're asking for, and it's what is needed. To Councilwoman's point, these meetings need to be more efficient. We need to be not following what has been done. I don't like that. It's what should be done. Rebecca and I have had this conversation multiple times now, but as early as yesterday, because I said, we're tightening up these rules. I had a conversation with Peter. I need someone there who's going to say, yes, this is legal. No, it is not. Period. And we move on efficiently. Sometimes we're not going to like it. Sometimes you're not going to like it. But I think both sides are asking for this, and it's needed. So it's going to be tough, but it's going to happen. There are a lot of rules in this book. So council, get ready. Susie Saldana had a point. Sidebars are in this book. Doesn't say can't have them. Says you can't be disruptive. So you can there's nothing wrong with me leaning over to say something to Councilman Roy. Now, if I'm loud and interrupting the conversation over here, sure. So anyhow, we're going to be working together, both sides, to make this more efficient, and we do. Thank you, Councilwoman, for bringing up Rebecca and Miles, because y'all are y'all play an intricate piece in efficiency. Anything else? All right. Okay, so we are moving on. We're going to go ahead and, where are we? Do we need to do anything, or we're good? Rebecca?
Does anybody want to make another motion?
So the last motion that was on the agenda failed, Mayor, so.
Right. So
There's
we're done
nothing
with
before
that.
council right now.
All right.
And that's for item 17, if anybody wants to do anything else.
So you know what? We're going to, I don't know if anybody's here for the HVAC. We're going to get through that one real quick, then we're going to break for lunch, come back and do the legislative briefing. So this is a motion to award a construction contract to Central Air and Heating Service LLC for the arena heating, ventilation, and air conditioning improvements project for the American Bank Center Arena.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services.
Approval. A second.
We have a motion and a second for the HVAC item. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment on item number 18? Okay, there being no one, we'll close public comment. Councilman, ma'am, I'm gonna, ma'am, I'm going to ask you, we have a system, and I see the lights, and I'm going to ask you to please not make outbursts. Thank you. So again, we closed public comment, and we are going to, I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second. We have a few comments. Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, considering our water consideration, there's no discussion about capturing the condensation off of this HVAC system to try to use for either landscaping or, and this is a conversation I had with the assistant city manager on this, about capturing that water to supply water to our water features that are on both sides of the American Bank Center. So what I'd like to do is to make a motion, an amendment to the motion to include design features to capture the condensation from the HVAC system.
Let me make a comment on that. So there's actually 3 phases to this project, and this particular phase isn't the phase that's going to really generate the condensation. It's going to be the dehumidifiers that are part of the second phase that's coming in. So this is just the chillers and the air handlers part of this first
As I
phase.
recall, they all create some condensation, not just the dehumidifiers.
These would be very minimal. It would just be off of the unit itself. This isn't where the warm, moist air is going to cross the heat exchanger. That's going to be in a future phase of the project. But that comment did make it to us, and we're going to explore that and see if that could be cost effectively done.
Okay, so what's the issue with including it?
You can. I'm just saying it's not this phase of work.
Well, we're going to include it in everything where we're doing HVAC system, so I'll keep the motion in place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Edmonds, you're basically saying that that motion wouldn't pertain to this phase. It would pertain to a second or third phase.
It would be the second phase. So
The second phase.
The first phase is the chillers and the cooling towers.
Okay.
The second phase is going to be the dehumidifiers. And the third phase is going to be exhaust fans and boilers. But it would be the dehumidifiers is where you're going to generate the most.
So how would, thank you. So how would this, if a motion went forth, Rebecca, that doesn't apply to this?
I mean, it's germane. What did you say it was, Gil? What's your amendment again?
It's to include the capture of any condensation off of the equipment to capture it for our water features or landscaping use. It may not be the full amount that you would get during with the dehumidifiers, which I understand, but there is some sort of condensation that would go directly into our wastewater systems. If you're going to capture it for our humidifiers, you can capture it for everything.
Okay, but procedurally that may be allowed. I just don't know. He's saying operationally, that's. I mean, we can make up amendments, but operationally that might not be a motion.
Do it in days so that ended in Y.
So, as to explain it further, obviously, when you build something, you have to build it to capture the water, right? If you don't build it to capture the water, then you never capture it. And it's easy for us, and I wouldn't do this if I trusted that it would happen, but I don't trust that it would just happen. Like for example, and it's not against you, sometimes you have $800 million of a capital improvement plan. You're not going to be worried about this one particular issue. So unless it's specifically called out.
So Councilman, I don't think, that's not the issue.
Well, no, I understand.
The issue is, and we need to hear it from Rebecca. So can we make a motion that would not apply to the first phase? That's the bottom line. I think it's a great idea, but does it apply when you're being told there are 3 phases? That would not apply to the first phase. So can we make a motion for that? That way we can move forward or not?
It doesn't appear so. Especially like I said, operationally, it seems to be more of an issue.
It's not operational, it's structural.
It's structural.
Okay, it's structural.
I'm sorry, I'm not an engineer, so I'm just
understand
looking
that.
at the
That's why I'm trying to say.
parliamentarian part. So I have no idea. Just, can you make an amendment? Yes, you can. Can staff make that happen? I don't know. We have to ask them.
Okay, so
So
then
Mr. Edmonds is saying in phase one, no. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Edmonds, can you answer the question? I just want to do things right. I'm trying to make sure we do this right, because if we're making an amendment to something it doesn't apply to, that makes no sense.
Well, I'll try to explain it, and bear in mind, this is not really directly in my swim lane, but, you know, I think he's thinking about, like, in your home air conditioner, where you've got your air handler and where you have your heat exchanger associated with your air handlers, where the condensate is generated. This project is like the unit that is outside of your house. And it's broken into two places. You've got the cooling towers and you've got the chillers. And you don't really generate a lot of condensation there. It's where the air is going over the heat exchanger where you get the water and the dehumidifiers. But I've got no problem saying that we'll incorporate condensate capture to the extent practical. You know, another problem we've got is that it's distributed in the building. So this system, if you look at these photos that are up, the two chillers are there on the left-hand side, and these are 1,000-ton chillers. These are, you know, a typical single-family home is like 2-ton, to give you an idea of the scale. And then the cooling towers are in that second photo, and then this is going to replace pipes. We also have some boiler flues that are going to be replaced as part of this. But the interior part where we've got the areas that would generate condensate are not part of this phase.
Okay, Councilman Roy.
I just want to comment, it's already been done, but I want to just remind the council and the public that this is in 3 different phases. And I just want to remind people of that, because this is going to, excuse me, this is going to take care of paying for this particular phase, but there's additional monies that will be allocated later on for the other phases. With that being said, and as far as did you take in consideration of trying to capture the condensation in phase 2?
It's under design right now, and we've passed that comment along to my folks
Okay.
that are managing that. We're going to explore that.
So in phase 2, it's not too late for you to go ahead
No.
and alert whoever's bidding on this or whoever's has been awarded or whatever, to make sure that feature's in there.
Correct. It's under
Okay.
design right now, and that does
That's a great
generate
idea.
water.
That's
The
a great
problem
idea.
is it is kind of distributed throughout.
And at what point in time do you think that we'll be back here voting on phase 2? Just to estimate a time frame.
It's probably, I think we're about 30% design on that, so it might be 6 months before we're going out for bid.
Okay, so this council will be intact, hopefully, by that time frame. So I think we can address that issue at that time frame and make sure that it's covered. I think Councilmember Hernandez had a great idea.
Another opportunity is with the arena. So this is the arena, sorry, with the convention center cooling system, which is closer to the water features over there. That might be some lower hanging fruit in terms of capturing the condensate from that system.
And are we doing anything, does anything need to be done? I know we just started working on the stage at the Saline Auditorium, but how about the air conditioning, for the HVAC for that? Is that part of this proposal?
That's not part of this. But
What phase is that?
That is, well, that's not part of this. This is just for the arena. So
Okay.
this is the arena broken into 3
Does it need to be done?
Yes, and we are working on that, both replacement for the convention center chiller system, and also taking the other facilities off, the art museum and the Science and History Museum.
And Harbor Playhouse, right?
And the Harbor Playhouse, yes.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to remind everybody that where we're at in terms of that whole area, so thank you.
Councilman Cantu.
Phase 1 is 4 million, right? Or is this 4 million for
This is
phase
just for
one?
the installation. So the sequence of events was when we were transitioning operators, we inventoried a lot of kind of areas that need to be recapitalized with the facility. We discovered at that time that we were running on one chiller and we were cannibalizing the second chiller to keep the first chiller running. So the cooling system there was kind of hanging on by a thread. We expedited a project to get this funded. It was May 23. We went to Type A and Council to get the funding for this, added it to the CIP. And to expedite it, we pre-purchased the equipment. So it's actually already here. That was about $3 million. Council did that. I don't have the date on that, but the equipment arrived like August, September of last year. And we tried to get this out on the street. We got no bids the first time, so we had to re-advertise for bid. That's why the equipment got here a little ahead of the installation.
So what Councilman Hernandez wants, is it already in the budget to save the water?
I'd say we're going to look at that.
Okay, but it's not in the budget though, correct?
I don't think we've got a clear idea of the cost on that phase 2 yet.
And top of your head, how many gallons a day can we save from doing that?
I really hate to speculate on that. I mean, maybe you might get 500 gallons.
500 gallons. So not 1 gallon, 500.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Vaughn. Oh, okay. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second for the amendment that would apply to phase 2, not phase 1. So I don't, back to Rebecca, I mean, we're voting on something that doesn't apply. Excuse me. Now, why couldn't we, Councilman Hernandez, why couldn't you just hold off? Because I think everybody likes the idea, and they bring it to you when they're doing phase, working on phase 2, which they are now, correct? It's just not come to council yet. I mean.
Okay, he didn't say that there was no condensation off of these items. Now, I can understand the towers outside, probably not, but the chillers inside do have some aspect of it. But this is more along the lines to make sure that this is a whole system. Not, I understand it's in phases, but it's a whole system. They got to start thinking about it now. If they don't think about it now, when it comes up, it's going to be, it's not going to be as easy to do. So I want to make sure that we're trying to, we start off the right way and we're capturing this, even if it's not the entire amount of where water is going to come from. And then there's also not only this side, but also the convention center side, which I expect to have the same thing. And then you also have the HVAC systems that we're going to separate out for the museums, and so you have a lot of opportunity to capture water, but we got to start somewhere. And I want to include this in here, even if it isn't as prevalent as with the dehumidifiers, but we need to start somewhere, and I want to make sure that we are stating that. And it does apply to, like I said, I think the chillers. Not to the extent of the dehumidifiers, you're not going to get as much water, but you need to have the system. So it's not going to hurt anything if we include this. I just want to make sure that we are putting that forward, that we are wanting to capture this water and be as efficient as possible, even if it's just to send a message to our designers, to our construction companies, that we are looking to save water.
Right, so maybe it's the wording. Rebecca, would it be, maybe the wording needs to be, to apply this, to the entire project, or as phase 2
his
comes
wording,
along?
his amendment is to, at the very end of the item, to include capture. So I would read, in the amount not to exceed $4,024,000, blah, blah, with FY 2025 capital funding available from the Type AB sales tax funds to include capture of condensation from HVAC for use in the water features, and then parentheses, what is it, okay?
Or landscaping.
Or landscaping. So the motion doesn't mention phase 1, it's generally speaking about the HVAC system.
I don't have any heartburn.
Okay.
Can I,
Okay, we're going to take one more comment. Councilman Scott has a comment.
Yeah.
Peter, go ahead.
I can go after the council members if you want. I just wanted to add a point.
No, go ahead before I make.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know if Jeff can answer it, but we don't know if there's a financial impact or an impact to the contract that we put out for bid. for this, as this is I don't know if, I guess Heather may have known about it, but I was unaware of this item, this amendment, so I'm not sure if this has, one, a financial impact, two, an operations impact in terms of it's not in the contract that we put out for bid. I don't know if we can afford it. I don't know if we have to redesign the whole project. The project's designed as a replacement project for the chiller towers and other devices.
Right.
I'm just for the record.
Okay.
This could have a massive financial impact. It
Right.
could have a design impact issue. It could have a contractual violation issue, all the above.
Okay, thank you for that.
I do have, yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
You're going to look at this anyhow, or do you need us to direct you to look for opportunities to better use water? Those are Kingsville words. In other words, I'm okay with just thinking you're going to do it and maybe even ask you to come back with an update. I hate to direct you to go spend a bunch of money on something that's not going to be effective. But if it is effective, I'd love for you guys to do it, bring it about to us.
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to do what Gil made a motion about, well, then I want him to be happy, and I'm okay with supporting it, but only if you're going to do it anyhow, right? If you were going to do something different, was just, basically analyze ways to save water and, collect water, then I'm okay just voting as is. Does that make sense?
And I think on the second phase, it is doing something a little bit different. But, at the end of the day, you're going to have to answer the question, is it worth it? Is it cost effective? So there is water in that second phase that is captured and is going to the sanitary sewer in the building.
I personally think you got the message.
I got the message.
You got the message, and maybe we didn't add that we're sensitive to our taxpayer funds anyhow, so we'd ask you to kind of analyze that. So I'm okay with that.
So that wasn't, Councilman Peter just brought up the point that there was no plan to make his idea, which is a great idea, a part of this project. So that is going to entail, it could entail cost. It's going to entail cost. So we need to know what that is, plus it's in phase 2, not phase 1. So, okay, we're going to go ahead. We have a motion and a second, and I believe we're going to go ahead and vote.
I want to address
Yes,
this.
Councilman.
The reason I'm including this, and I just want to make sure you understand, because we had opportunities to save water in the past. So, for example, we had the Del Mar campus that has that put in irrigation systems, but we have a purple pipe that comes up right to Bill Witt. It was never offered to extend it to them. We built a police training academy that also has some form of irrigation that we did not include the purple pipe for effluent reuse for that irrigation system. So unless we direct it, it will not happen. And so I want to make sure that this is an understanding that this is something that we need to look at every project to be able to capture water or use wastewater effluent at every possible opportunity, because, ladies and gentlemen, our reservoirs are at 18.3%. Okay, I understand that this may be some money a little bit, but every little bit of water counts. And so I understand that this might, change little things, but we need to start thinking water in everything. And so I understand it. I'm making this amendment because those things didn't happen. Okay, so thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to end it with this. We don't have a cost. We don't know how much or what this is going to entail. For those who come and talk about the tax dollar being spent wisely, this is not wisely when you don't know. I completely support what you're saying. I love the idea. But I'm a little surprised that Gil Hernandez is not worried about cost. And this doesn't even apply to phase 1, it applies to phase 2. So I would love for you to go find out what this initiative would cost and see if that is the will of the council. Because everything comes with a cost. Of course it's water, but water comes with a cost. So everyone, please submit your votes. And again, what we're voting on is the amendment. The motion fails. We are going to break for lunch. We will return.
Can we vote on the original motion?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
You've already made the motion to approve. Yes.
Right. Do we have a second? Yes, the agenda item as is. I'm sorry. The motion carries. So we're going to break for lunch. We will return and go to item number 19, which is a legislative update. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene our meeting. Our last item of the day is item number 19, and that is a legislative update presented by Ryan Skrabarczyk, Director of Intergovernmental Relations.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Ryan Skrabarczyk, Director of Intergovernmental Relations, and we've got a presentation. I'll let them bring that up. And we're going to give an update. As you're well aware, the legislature is moving fast and furious through its calendar now. There's been some crucial updates that will now facilitate the actual movement of bills. And so once that started, it's going to be real quick. But so there's several important things that have happened in the last week and that will impact the weeks ahead. First and foremost, the House has finally named its committees. And why is that important to the city? Well, because the committees are where the organ in which the legislation is going to actually move through and head to the floor. So to give you some context about where the Corpus Christi delegation ended up, we're pretty well situated with the fact that we have 2 members on appropriations from the same region. That's pretty outstanding. Freshman Representative Denise Villalobos has ended up on appropriations, local and consent, which is a procedural committee, but important in the number of local bills that will pass through and make it to the floor. And then natural resources, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it's primarily the water committee. So that's crucial for our area to have a representative on that committee. Representative J.M. Lozano used his seniority appointment to get a spot on appropriations and also corrections. And then last but certainly not least, Chairman Todd Hunter has been appointed as chairman of the House Calendars Committee, which is probably the most important committee in terms of the legislative process because it's a procedural committee between the substantive and the floor. So everything that's a major piece of legislation, controversial piece of legislation, will go to the Calendars Committee for review, and there it's held until it's scheduled to go for a floor vote. And so a number of bills may not end up making it out of Calendars Committee. Corpus Christi as a community is well positioned to have Chairman Hunter in that role. In addition, he's also appointed to Land and Resource Management, Public Education, and then a new facet of the House process so far, or excuse me, of the House rules this session are permanent standing subcommittees, of which he was appointed to the academic and career-oriented education. And so I relay all of that information just because, one, we're well positioned to have an influence on a number of different policy areas across the state. Our delegation working as a team and as the city working with them in both the Senate and the House, they have the opportunity to directly speak to a number of issues that will impact municipalities. So the governor's emergency items are issues where he called out in the State of the State. And these issue areas or policy areas are bills that can be acted on in the first 60 days. And so we know that the legislature is going to take them up in most cases first, and the Senate has already started that on a number of these issues. Of the ones that impact the city the most are probably the property tax relief proposals, some of the potential legislation on requiring certain vote thresholds on bonds and tax increases. Obviously, the investment in water, which is a big item that everybody's watching. From a community standpoint, obviously expanding school training or career training, bail reform, because as the municipal court, we magistrate the offenses that Corpus Christi Police Department arrests. And so we're seeing a number of those proposals already start moving through the process. In addition, the Lieutenant Governor, as the head of the Senate, and the Speaker, as the head of the House, have the ability to designate low bill numbers. And why is that important? Because those bills can almost be immediately referred to committee, and they also signal priority of leadership to their respective chambers. So the Lieutenant Governor has released an initial list of bills. Most of them are not filed on this slide. The bolded bill numbers are the ones that actually have legislation that is visible. The rest may have some concept available on them, but they have not been filed officially, and so there's no statutory language to look at. The Senate Bill 7, which is the water supply, there will be multiple pieces of legislation as a part of the governor, lieutenant governor, and Senator Perry's vision on water. Senate Bill 7 at the moment, and I've seen or heard about different versions of this, is expected to be the creation of a new statewide authority for water distribution. And so there'll be other major pieces of legislation along with that. Senate Bill 9, we'll speak to a little bit in just a couple of slides. The removing barriers to affordable housing. I've brought this up several times in briefings to council. That's assumed to be part of the push for greater density, under the assumption that density is the driver of housing affordability. And so that's going to continue to be a very big topic that impacts municipal authority this legislative session. Obviously, Senate Bill 19 we have talked about extensively, and the city's ability to have lobby teams and be represented in Austin and track the large volume of legislation that's filed, and I've got a final slide on that. Establishing Texas as America's film capital. Corpus Christi, as you're probably aware, has a film and music commission, and so just something that we want to track. Like I said, there's not legislation on the unbolded items yet, so as it becomes available, we'll be monitoring that. There are several bills which we want to discuss. You were sent a memo on this legislation, Senate Bill 1250 and House Bill 2877. Filed by Senator Juan Chuy Hinojosa and Representative Denise Villalobos. This will allow the city of Corpus Christi, if it is successful in the form in which it was filed, to modify the boundaries of our project financing zone and make it all on land, where 56% of it now sits in the water, of which, until they make on that, will result, if passed, up to $191.5 million in incremental revenue over 30 years. For context, the city of Dallas, because the city of Corpus Christi, along with a number of other cities, have been impacted by an entity titled the Cameron County Housing Finance Corporation. And in Corpus Christi alone, without the consent of the county or the city, has removed over $206 million in property value from our rolls. So at some point, that does have a really significant impact on our annual revenue as those properties go to zero taxable value. It does set, the legislation does set, would create a statewide standard for affordability to make it consistent and set what it defines as lower income housing at 60% AMI or area median income, and moderate at 80% AMI. I know that the entities which represent housing corporations as a whole across the state have been working with the authors to make some amendments, but on the whole, this is in line with our legislative agenda adopted by council due to the ability for the city to have a say in these types of deals made in its jurisdiction. Property tax. We know this is a governor's emergency item. We know that the Lieutenant Governor has made it an emergency item. I included in the presentation primarily so that we can illustrate to council how quickly items of priority or emergency items are going to be moving through the legislature. So it was filed on the 6th, voted out of committee on the 11th, and off the Senate floor on the 13th. So if you think back to that list of priorities, many of which will impact the city, we're going to be doing our best to monitor them and notify council, but when they come up, they may move very quickly. So you'll have to understand, I needed to give you some context of that. If you're thinking, oh, the legislature filed that bill and we've got weeks to engage and respond and work on it and those types of things, that may not necessarily be true. On Senate Bill 9, which I'd indicated we'll talk about, the primary purpose of bail reform is to keep violent criminals in jail. And that's a very good, obviously, objective for public policy. I bring it up just because, like I said, Corpus Christi magistrates, the arrest that Corpus Christi Police Department makes. And so in working with the Association for Municipal Courts, as well as our own judge, we're looking at these to make sure that they can be implemented seamlessly. And so we've gathered some initial feedback on how it can be implemented and incorporated into the existing way in which we communicate with the bail system now. And so legislation to date, as of Friday, there were over 4,000 bills filed, and cities are tracking over 1,000 at this point. To give you some context, that tracks with about, on average, we are going to be impacted in some way by almost 25% of all legislation filed. However, in the first few weeks of session, we're tracking about 34% above previous sessions in terms of the number of bills filed. So we're seeing a larger volume of bills. It means that the team at Focus Advocacy in Austin, and obviously city staff here, have our work cut out for us as we try to monitor and track this legislation and engage on some of the stuff that would be the most impactful to the city. And with that, ready for any questions?
Councilman Hernandez.
Yesterday, I went to a presentation from the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
TPPF,
right? And they were very much in support of not, or should I say, against taxpayer-funded lobbying. And they had given several examples. They said, well, that's not us. We vote on our legislative policy. But then I went and looked at our page, and it's not posted.
Okay. On our website?
What we voted on is not posted. I mean, if you go and look at Legistar and go,
yeah,
a lot of hits for supporting this position.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to make sure that we are as transparent as possible with regards to
Good
that.
suggestion. Happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Scott.
Tell me again about the make Corpus Christi the movie center of Texas.
I don't think that was the lieutenant governor's caption, actually.
Right. Well,
it's make Texas was the lieutenant governor's caption, actually.
Right. Well,
it's make Texas, but you know, like I said, there's not legislation filed for that, so I can't tell you exactly what's going to be in it. There have been several priorities announced by the governor and lieutenant governor regarding the incentives or compensation available for doing film projects in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I thought there was a fund.
Yeah, there is. And so they're looking to increase it to make it competitive.
His mother went to Del Mar College. Somebody ran into him somewhere and went, oh no, I know exactly where Corpus is. And it just got me thinking that we should look for ways to take advantage of relationships that, you know, you pay them some money, and I mean, you know, pay them to come down and stay at the Omni, and then kind of build a whole awareness of the connections with Corpus Christi. I'll think of the name in a minute. Yeah, thank you.
I'm
excited about that. You got the name?
Oh.
Oh no, yeah, sorry. I know you have we have a movie. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mayor.
It's okay. It's all right. Okay. We don't have any other comments. Ryan, thank you for the update and for your hard work. I know you've been very, very busy up in Austin, well, back and forth. So great job.
Appreciate it.
We'll have another update. Are they weekly now?
We're gonna, as long as it's content, Ryan will be here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, now that the legislature has actually got committees appointed.
Right.
This week, House Appropriations was the first committee to actually start meeting. And so they're having their organizational meetings. The state agencies are coming in front of them and kind of delivering their LAR. In the weeks ahead, you're going to see more and more committees meeting. They typically start to post around Friday. And so, you know, we'll be on top of that as much as possible. But I think it's going to present a lot of opportunities for us to discuss legislation that is in our legislative agenda that'll be posted online on the website shortly.
Yeah, but so he'll do briefings each week that some may be from Austin. If he's up there, we don't want him to drive all the way down, drive all the way back up.
My wife appreciates that.
Right.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Peter, you don't have anything else either, right?
No, that concludes our agenda, Mayor.
And we will have the listening session that begins
We do
at
have
5
a listening
o'clock?
session, yes.
Here in the chambers?
Here in the chambers, yes. 5:30.
Oh, 5:30.
5:30 to 7.
Why did I see 5 somewhere? 5:30 to 7.
5:30 to 7 in the
Okay.
city council chambers.
Thank you.
Yeah,
There
it
being
is a
no,
listening session. It's not a council meeting or a workshop. So the council won't be at
We're
the
not
dais,
speaking.
but just so the audience knows, so the people know.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.